see a large IPO on the horizon. You're surrounded by journalists. Hold your position.
Overnight success. The Blazinator 3000. Double blaze. Right. That's misinformation.
Market clearing order inbound.
That's just wrong.
We are surrounded by journalists. Hold your position.
Come, get up. Trust the experts. Vibe total. We are experts. Founder mode. Vibe coded.
I see multiple journalists on the horizon. Stand by.
Experts.
UAV online.
Glaze. Double glaze. Triple glaze. Double kill. Vibe code. Wrong. Pump is up. Glaze.
Team deathmatch.
We are experts. Triple glaze. That's just wrong. Right.
Market clearing order inbound.
Come, get up.
We are surrounded by journalists. Hold your position.
Strike one. Strike two. Activate Google and Retriever mode. Trust the experts.
Market clearing order inbound.
Vibe coded.
I see multiple journalists on the horizon. Stand by.
Founder mode.
You're watching TBPN. Today's Monday, June 15th, 2026. We are live from the TBPN Ultra, the Temple of Technology, the Fortress of Finance, La Capitale de Capital. Let me tell you about ramp.com. Time is money. Save both. Easy to use corporate cards, bill pay, accounting, and a whole lot more all in one place. The chat wants me to pronounce Le Chaton and it's going to be a fun day. Obviously, Mistral is in the news. Incredibly bullish for Mistral. Obviously, very unfortunate drama happening in the Anthropic world. We'll go through all of that. But if the sovereign AI thesis could not get any stronger right now, this weekend really showed a lot of countries, hey, maybe we do want a national champion. Hey, maybe we do want someone that will provide us models forever. We're also going to be going through SpaceX IPO. We have Gavin Baker joining in 30 minutes. And we're recapping UFC Freedom 250. It happened at the White House last night. Jordy, take us through your reactions. Introduce our first guest of the show.
Okay, quick intro on the event overall.
Yeah.
I am a UFC fan.
Yes.
It's one of the few sports, maybe the only sport, where I actually know the names of the people that are competing. Our guest in just a few minutes is one of those people.
And are you more of a fan of the UFC or more of a fan of the government? Because a lot of people were watching just because they're fans of the government, and they said, "Oh, I will watch anything. I watch C-SPAN all day long. I watch anything that happens if it involves the government." This was an interesting crossover.
No, more seriously, I, as a UFC fan and as an American, I'm excited for the UFC to do well. I'm excited for the fighters to have a platform. I was a little bit wary of this event overall, just because the aesthetics of putting on this crazy party,
high stakes,
in this moment when there is a ton to black pill about.
Yeah.
Not after
interest
less
rates,
after
wars,
yesterday.
all this other stuff going on.
And so war raging, gas prices are high, house prices are high, rates are going up.
Having a party.
A lot of people in America are not having a good time.
Yep.
And it really felt like a bread and circuses moment.
Sure.
But the bread and circuses, John, it worked on me.
Top notch.
It worked on me. Some of the best ever. It was.
Why was it so good compared to a normal UFC event?
Well, you didn't watch, so I guess it's hard.
Was it the aesthetics or the actual?
Well,
card?
so one, the production value. One, the card was absolutely stacked. It was 8 fights.
Yeah.
No filler.
Yeah.
Wall to wall.
Yeah.
Really, fights that had a lot of. They carried a lot of weight, right? So like the main title fight, Gaethje versus Ilia Topuria, that changed both fighters' careers, like full stop, right? And even with Bo Nickal joining in just a few minutes, Bo, that was the biggest possible stage that any athlete could be on, and especially in the UFC, at least here in America. So anyways, going into it, I thought the aesthetics were bad. I was excited to watch the fights. Turned out it was just really cool. And sure, there's still going to be people that are upset that the president and the admin is like platforming something like this. Turned out to be really fun. It was a cool night, and I think America kind of needed it.
A lot of people are saying that it's not unprecedented because Teddy Roosevelt held a boxing match in the White House almost 100 years ago, around that time, and apparently he fought in the boxing match, which is crazy.
Yeah, he was a big boxer.
He was a big boxer, and so
imagine.
So this is like a light craziness. Anyway,
but anyways,
we have a guest.
the event was incredible, and I came away thinking that big parties and sporting events are potentially the most underutilized political strategy. Right? I would actually expect the admin's like overall popularity
to go up,
approval rating to go up based on based just on this event, because there were so many iconic images. Funny enough, the most iconic image is of a Brazilian named Diego Lopez, which we had up on the screen there,
standing up on the.
But anyways, really wild. And let's bring in Bo.
Let's bring in Bo Nickal. We've talked about it many times on the show. Welcome to the show. How are you doing, Bo?
Doing great, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you so much for taking the time.
Long overdue. So backstory here is Bo somehow was like one of the first 10,000 people to discover TBPN. You're an entrepreneur outside of the octagon, and somehow you were in between camps, or maybe during camps, you maybe saw a funny clip of a couple guys in suits, and yeah, I remember getting the notification like Bo Nickal has followed you, and I was like, oh, who's this? Who's some troll like pretending to be Bo Nickal?
Account
it was you, and it was a funny moment because, yeah, you know, I probably hadn't even shared that I was a UFC fan on the show. So, first off, congratulations. I was a lot of the fights last night were high stakes. And but yours was the highest stakes because I was watching, and I can't imagine what you were going through in the lead up to the fight. But you had a perfect performance, and it was really fun to watch. Wanted to first off ask what it was like leading up to this event, highest profile UFC event ever by far. And I want to know. I want to know what that was like.
Yeah, it was pretty interesting. I think my experience was a little bit different than a lot of the fighters because I knew immediately after my last fight 7 months ago that I was going to be on the card. You know, I think most guys didn't find out till, you know, probably 10, 12 weeks out. And, you know, I knew 7 months that I was going to be on it. So I started prepping immediately. And, yeah, it was just a lot more media, a lot more attention, a lot more buzz. Tried to take advantage of that as best I could, you know, first and foremost by being prepared to whoop ass. But secondly, just, you know, the opportunity with the you know, viewership and stuff like that and maximizing that. So,
but is that knowing 9 months out that you're going to be fighting like, you know, 5 feet from the president on the White House lawn?
Is that an advantage?
Is that an advantage or a disadvantage? Because in some ways you're probably more locked in. You know, you're taking every moment more seriously. But on the other side, like I know there's been moments where I know I'm going to be like doing public speaking. Right? I don't really love public speaking. And usually I'm thinking like, it'd be nice to just get this over with. But 9 months out, you know, you got that's a lot of time being like, I want to get in there.
Yeah, it definitely goes in waves. Like, you know, there's certain times where you feel a little more stressed, then certain times you feel really relaxed. For me, it was just staying focused on the process, focused on my systems, refining everything that I do and improving every day. And I knew if I kept doing that for that period of time that I'd just be as prepared as possible. So, you know, it really, like I said, riding those waves was big, and just being able to, you know, kind of stay focused on the process and my systems and refining those rather than like thinking about this big moment 24/7.
Was the crowd any different? Was the vibe in the stadium any different? Does that affect you during a fight?
It was way different. To me, I come from a college wrestling background. So, you know, when you're competing in a home match, you got 10, 20,000 people that love you, want you to win, right? And since transitioning to MMA, I've had like a little bit of mixed emotions towards me. Some people love me, some people hate me, which is, it's good for me at the end of the day. But this one definitely felt more like my college days where it was a home match. I felt like everybody was on my side. President Trump was actually, the way he was kind of positioned around the ring, it was like he was right next to my cornerman. So he was like almost in my corner. And yeah, it was sick.
That's crazy. What about the prep? I saw folks doing walkouts from the Oval Office. Do you have enough space to sort of get in the right mindset? Are you stuck in a trailer? Like, what is your day of the fight like?
Yeah, day of fights, I try to just keep it loose. They have you report a few hours early, but I'm just hanging out with my friends, everybody that's visiting in to come watch me. And once you get in, you get warmed up, get your gloves on, get taped up. And then what was really unique for this one is the walkout, being next to a Medal of Honor recipient and another military member was just like they're walking out with you. And so I showed up, and the guy that I was next to, he like was just a total badass older guy and was like, "You ready to do this?" And I'm like, "Hell yeah, let's go." And so, awesome. You know, that just got me hyped up and just had to have fun with it.
I feel like every UFC is a Super Bowl in some ways. It's the top every time, but this was a particularly special moment. Are you optimistic that the UFC will find other ways to sort of create even more special events in a calendar crowded with like special events that happen fairly regularly? Not necessarily it's going to be 250 at the White House lawn, but you can imagine that there's just something that breaks through and goes into the mainstream media even bigger like this one did.
I don't know how you go bigger.
I don't know.
I don't either.
In space, on the moon,
Hey,
on,
we'll
on
talk
a boat.
about
I
France
don't
later.
know.
Top of the Eiffel Tower.
Yeah, top of the. Yeah, maybe. Who knows?
Who knows? They're going to figure out something. They always do. There's always something that comes along. But yeah, I mean, I was told this actually did more viewership than the Super Bowl, which doesn't surprise me. But yeah, it was unbelievable. I mean, they're going to figure something out, and I'm just going to keep getting better at fighting. So I focus on that and take care of business on my end. And
where were you?
The promotion.
Where were you watching Ilya Gaethje from?
So what they did was they had us go back to the hotel, do media, and then they had a little room set up for us where we could have all of our families and stuff because post-fight they had the presser with all the winners, and we had to wait until main event was over to do the presser. So they kind of set up a nice little area with food and stuff for us. But it was all the fighters in there together, and it was a pretty cool environment. It was insane.
Yeah.
That was John. John, given that he didn't watch, even though he was cheering for you in
calling me
spirit.
out here.
No, it's okay that you're locked in.
It's
you're
okay
probably,
that you don't
you're
like
probably
fighting.
reading
You probably
Stratechery.
like,
No, but I was explaining, like to me that was the most the Gaethje Ilya was the most insane UFC moment, going in underdog. He's lost to a bunch of guys that he's lost to multiple guys that Topuria has, wiped the floor with. Yeah. And for Gaethje to do that in that moment just felt like what a way. I mean, I was just really happy for the guy. One of those guys who's been on top, and as an American UFC fan, I bet that fight created like a bunch of Gaethjes and a bunch of Bo Nickals.
I love it. What does the next week, month, rest of the year look like for you now? Like, what is it like coming off of this?
I texted Bo last night, like, so happy for you, blah, blah, blah. You texted back in like 30 seconds. I was like, what are you doing right now? Like, I would have just thrown my phone.
Yeah.
The grind never
I do
stops.
like, post-fight for me, I probably take like a week or 10 days to do a little media tour just to kind of maximize that and, do as much as I can. And it's kind of just like, business. But I got a couple of things planned for the summer. Of course, a bunch of training. Going to take a 2-week trip to Japan, see Japan, which is going to be dope. But yeah, usually post-fight, like I said, try to, take advantage of the media buzz and then, maybe work a little bit on some of my businesses, things like that, while I'm not, directly preparing for a fight, and couple weeks for vacay if I can slip that in. But yeah, always staying busy.
You're going to Japan. Anything we can do to get you to stop over in China and get in the ring with one of those humanoid robots? I want to see you clock it so hard.
Yeah, we
that
need
it just
Bo.
explodes into
Basically,
a million
all
pieces.
the humanoid companies, we need to create Bo bench.
Yep.
And it's like, how long can you
last?
stay in the ring
It was like
with
10
Bo
milliseconds.
Yeah, no, easy money for me. I might break my hand on for that, but I'll destroy it for sure.
Padded gloves or something. I don't know. Some
awesome.
big work
Well,
boots. Thank
so
you so
happy
much
for
coming
you.
on. Happy for you.
Enjoy the moment and come back on
you
next
want.
time, whenever you want, to talk about some of your businesses.
Yeah.
And yeah, we're very proud and yeah, enjoy the
honored
moment.
to have you as a fan. Thank you so much.
Let's do it. Thanks, guys. Appreciate y'all.
Have a
to
great
see
rest of
you.
your day. We'll talk to you soon. Let me tell everybody about MongoDB. What's the only thing faster than the AI market? Your business on MongoDB. Don't just build AI. Own the data platform that powers it. So the other big topic over the UFC was the fact that Dario Amodei was not in attendance. He wasn't front row. Mark Zuckerberg was. Yeah. And it sort of underscores this odd situation that Anthropic's in where like they just got dealt this weird hand where like they're doing so well and the admin could not be more misaligned aesthetically with Anthropic.
Their whole brand.
Yeah, but the whole brand. They're very, very different.
And I was I read the article yesterday that Anthropic staff were going to Washington D.C. And it's funny. Some people were like, "Oh, this is bad. Like if it was they could solve the issue easily, they could do it over the phone. Not how this works.
You always go.
Serious issue.
Everybody goes.
You would obviously go, but flying to Washington D.C. to try to solve an issue on a Sunday there was not a worse.
Well, they'll be here. They'll be
No,
there all
I
week,
know,
yeah.
but you can imagine you land there. You're like, okay, like where is everyone? Let's like meet. There's a big
go have
issue.
some-
Let's
let's
meet.
go have some
Figure this out.
meetings.
This is
Yeah.
important. The national security is on the line. Like, let's figure
I'm
this
busy.
out. And they're like, where is everyone?
And like, if you take
turn on the
safety
TV.
seriously, cybersecurity seriously, biosecurity seriously, export control seriously, like UFC could not be less aligned with that. The stakes there, and so like there is this big gap between the administration and Anthropic, and I think that everyone should, like every American should care about bridging this gap. Like private enterprises should be able to flourish in the United States. Everyone agrees with that, and the government should be able to enact reasonable regulations to protect America's interests. And both of those need to find a way to play together, but there is just a really, really broad gap between these two organizations. And so everyone's hoping that things resolve quickly. And it seems like the right, wheels are in motion. The flights have been booked or already taken, and things are moving along. But just a recap on the play-by-play. March 4th, Anthropic received a Department of War supply chain risk letter. That, of course, got rolled back eventually. April 7th was the Mythos preview announcement alongside Project Glasswing. June 9th was the Fable 5 launch last Monday. Mythos with guardrails around cyber, bio, and AI research. And on June 12th, just 5 days after the end of the week, Fable 5 gets suspended after the Commerce Department issues an export control directive. So Anthropic explained in a blog post that the US government is restricting both Fable 5 and Mythos 5 from being used by any foreign national, whether inside or outside the US, including foreign national Anthropic employees. And so that's a huge compliance burden, very sudden, and that led Anthropic to completely suspend the use of those models for all users, not just foreign national employees, because they need to, at least if they want to comply with this, do all the KYC, understand how different organizations are using the model, who at those organizations has access. If something's being vended through an API and it's showing up in another product, does that product do all of the proper authorizations? And so it's a big wrench in the gears of the rollout of this model. Then the information reported that Andy Jassy at Amazon had raised concerns with the senior administration officials about the risk of jailbreaking Fable and getting access to all of Anthropic. Anthropic countered in their blog post saying, quote, "We reviewed a demonstration of this specific technique being used to identify a small number of previously known minor vulnerabilities. These vulnerabilities all appear relatively simple, and we have found that other publicly available models are able to discover them as well without requiring a bypass." So they're saying this isn't that big of a jailbreak. This isn't that big of a deal. We can move forward safely. We've taken safety seriously, but that is the debate that's going on between the admin and Anthropic. So as everyone knows, the rollout of Fable 5 has been a bit rocky. Incredible demos, incredible benchmarks, but offset by the odd decision to silently degrade the quality of answers related to frontier AI development, instead of just refusing the request like cyber and bio prompts, which that was the main thing that everyone was really confused about. The actual rationale behind AI development refusal is pretty sound. Like, people are upset about that if they're working on machine learning systems, recommender systems, anything that requires, like instantiating an AI product, let alone if you're just, hey, I'm just doing open source AI research and I'd love to use the latest and greatest models to help me. Now it's not an option. But at the same time, just think about the logic. If a model doesn't let you hack a system, just have the model build you an unrestricted model that does let you hack that system. And so clearly in that scenario, it makes sense to restrict, if you want to restrict hacking or bio, you also have to restrict the tool that makes the tool that hacks the system or develops the bioweapon, in theory. But the choice to silently degrade responses was not well received. These are important issues, and there's another timeline where AI leaders are cut from the same cloth as America's elected officials, but we're in a world where Anthropic has to make their case for safety in an age of RSI during a UFC fight on the White House lawn. It's a very bizarre timeline, but here we are. Most of the big tech CEOs They have figured out how to work with the administration effectively, showing up to large dinners, photo ops, the occasional movie screening to make their case about hot topics. Many of these CEOs also have business relationships with Anthropic, either on the customer side or on the investor side. And that's what's really complicated about the Amazon relationship. Obviously, Amazon uses Anthropic models, also is an investor in Anthropic, also provides compute to Anthropic. And so they have a very hairy, complex, circular relationship. And so that clouds the discussion over whether or not is Anthropic going to try and help Anthropic get through this? Are they doing everything above board? At the same time, people were sort of putting out that did Amazon spike the ball on this? And at the same time, if the government comes to you and asks hey, you're a big tech company, you've been using this model a lot.
You're a close partner to Anthropic.
Were you able to jailbreak it at all? And your security team just issued a report yeah, we actually were able to just jailbreak it a little bit. You're not going to withhold that from the government. You're going to turn that over. That's different than calling and saying, hey, I really think it's dangerous. You got to put pressure on them. So there's this wide range of levels of interaction that can go both ways. You can be a lab partnered with a big tech company. That big tech company can have a really established government relations group that is actually helping you get through to the admin. On the flip side, you could have a big tech company that is competing with you or frustrated by your business and is actively trying to put their thumb on the scale the other way. So I'm sure we'll learn more in the future. Many of these CEOs have business relationships with Anthropic, so we'll see how all of this develops. And they're always renegotiating these contracts too, which makes things more complex, and they're competing across multiple markets. So expect the 4D chess to be on full display all summer long in Washington. Anyway, UFC, Anthropic, what else is going on? Meta is doing a 180, according to Amir over at The Information, trying to be the vanguard of token minimizing. I think the token maxing, token minimizing thing is so silly because do you know where maxing comes from, really? It comes from gamer lingo usually. And
adopted by the looks maxing community?
I don't know if looks maxing community was the first one. They certainly made it go really viral. They
popularized, I feel like through effectively through Clav's clipping.
Yeah.
That language. The idea of doing anything I'm computer maxing today.
Yeah, I mean, isn't it from min maxing?
Min maxing, and that's what I'm getting at. You shouldn't be token maxing or token minning. You should be token min maxing. And the idea of min-maxing is when you're in a video game, you want to get the most resources for the lowest cost. So if you're playing League of Legends, you're going to put just the right amount of gold into this particular item or this particular stat point in an RPG, and you're going to try and find the optimal build based on your resources. You have confined resources. And somehow it feels like these tech and all these companies went through some sort of hallucinatory period where they lost sight of that they should always have been min-maxing because that is the goal of business at all times in all things. You would never say oh yeah, we're ad maxing this quarter. We're going to buy as many ads as possible. Oh no, it didn't work. We spent way too much on ads. They were not effective. We need to add min, spend as little as possible on marketing. It's you always want to be spending. You always want to be getting the most return on ad spend, the highest leverage output.
Yeah, there was, and again, unsubstantiated post.
Yes.
But somebody was saying they talked to somebody at Meta, and there was one engineer that spent $90,000 in one day and was quickly terminated.
Really?
Terminated within 3 days. So again, could just be entirely fake news, but...
Okay. Yeah,
it seems somewhat informed.
The crazy thing is that the lesson from that
this
will
guy's
be,
I'm not getting fired. I'm going to use AI more than anyone else in the whole company.
I'm riding loops.
$90,000 bill.
So the lesson that will be learned from that is don't spend $90,000 a day. But the Super Bowl is for a marketer. The Super Bowl is spend $5 million in one day. And it works sometimes. And sometimes Super Bowl ads deliver $20 million in value.
But what do teams do when they run Super Bowl ads, right? We ran our Super Bowl ad.
Yeah.
we trained our own model
Yes,
in
yes,
order to.
yeah.
Kidding. No, but
No,
teams
we
are gonna
made sure
they're
that
gonna
ours
run
was
a Super
ROI
Bowl.
positive, and
Yeah.
we only bought the ad in a small market, and we did it before the game,
Where our
so that
we
it was
already knew our
where our
audience was.
And so for a very low cost, we were able to get a very high value. So I believe we got a very high return on investment. We min-maxed the Super Bowl. Now there were some companies that sort of just Super Bowl maxed, and they just spent a ton of money. And when you looked at the data on how they were received by audiences, it seemed like, oh, they definitely didn't get $5 million in brand value back. In fact, maybe that ad was poorly received. Some of the AI generated ads. were sort
I
of
gotta
so
give it up
bad.
to the UFC for the
Ads?
level of advertising during the event yesterday.
They're running full ads in the middle. I
Yeah,
thought
so
the whole
one-
thing
one
with the UFC was
interesting-
no ads.
No, so the interesting thing.
Just branded.
No, with the new Paramount deal, there's
Okay.
a lot of ads.
Okay.
But one, Dana White was in a lot of the ads that were running. So,
Okay.
so like Dodge was doing a TRX ad. It was Dana White driving.
That's cool.
There was another ad. I forget the brand, so I guess it was a bad ad. But Dana White they faked a podcast set where it was with an insurance company. And Dana was having a conversation about business insurance with the CEO of the company.
Interesting.
So it looks like a podcast. So I thought it was interesting they were casting Dana and all of them. Then second, the level of advertising just in the Octagon was out of this world. There was so many different ways to gamble. There was there's no like. The UFC cannot do like a gambling exclusivity deal with anyone, right? Because it's like it's crypto.com, it's Polymarket, it's Bet365. Like any possible way that you could want to like gamble.
Bet365. So the only day you're taking off is leap day. Every 4 years, you take 1 day off of gambling. That's
kind of like
the mission.
ethos of the company.
1 day off every 4 years.
And then Kalshi's running ads during the event.
So Kalshi and Polymarket are duking
So
it out.
Polymarket is in the Octagon.
Okay.
But Kalshi's running a bunch of ads
against it.
Against
and
it.
they're buying directly through Paramount because you streamed it on Paramount. Is that correct?
Yeah, I don't.
Did you have to pay for it in addition to?
No.
Okay, so you pay for Paramount on a monthly basis, and then you get UFC for free.
Yeah.
Got it. Gambling is just min-maxing done poorly. That's true. Anyway, so the news around Meta is Meta's doing a 180, trying to be the vanguard of token minimizing. 2 months ago, Meta epitomized token maxing, on track to spend billions a year on Claude, et cetera. We've seen an exponential increase in AI usage, and we are tracking to spend billions on internal use alone in 2026. The memo said, at the same time, individuals and teams have limited visibility into and control over how they use AI. In 2027, we expect Meta will move towards managing AI tokens in a more structured way with budgets, allocation decisions, and supporting tools. That makes sense. You have a marketing budget. You should also have a token budget as part of this.
I also saw something they have like Meta Code, which is their internal.
Yeah. That makes sense. I mean, they're like, catching up to the frontier with.
I mean, Zuck has talked
Spark.
about this. There's a bunch of like these leaked calls where Zuck is like, you should imagine that Meta employees are going to be better than like the average open source contributor. So it's like the basically quality of coding data within Meta should be super good. You can train some model on that.
It's the same pitch as take a frontier model, bring them in through some sort of consulting partner. They fine tune on your business workflow. They automate your business process. But your business process in this case, if you're Meta, is generating code that makes your social networks better.
Yeah, and it's especially good because like in Meta, all of the like, internal business, like whatever data, it's already in like code format. You don't have to like scan in a bunch of papers into something digital.
I still don't know what Meta is actually building, and I think there comes a time soon that they should probably communicate that to the market.
Personal superintelligence, baby. What's there not to understand?
No, it's a
$1.5 trillion company.
What does that mean?
75% is valuable as SpaceX, buddy. Come on. It's crazy.
SpaceX, well...
SpaceX is 2.3.
Well, if things keep going the way they're going, we'll see even more of a divergence. No, but I think, like, it's so unclear.
You should be able to put a lot of the SpaceX bull case on Meta, right? It's like, sure, maybe Colossus was built a little bit faster, but Meta's pretty fast.
I think they're wildly...
I
think they're couldn't be more different. With Meta right now, it's the bull case is it's potentially the greatest business in the history.
Yeah,
that
just
is not
advertisements.
threatened by AI.
Totally.
That actually is accelerated by AI.
Yeah.
And I don't think. Anyways.
Yeah.
But I do think I would expect some communication from Meta around what their real strategy is.
Yeah.
Over the next month or so, because it's killing them that they just keep saying, "Oh, we're personal super intelligence," but wait, they're building like a coding harness, and they're working on coding. Like, are they going to sell that externally, or is it going to be internal?
Coding?
Are they going to try to?
Coding seems like it makes sense. Like, they're
are they going to try to sell their model on an
That's their
API and
business.
get into enterprise? Like,
That's
the big question is like,
big,
do they
right?
take the leap? They kind of did that with Manus.
Yeah.
But that's getting unwound.
Well, let's talk to Gavin Baker about it. But first, let me tell you about the New York Stock Exchange. Want to change the world? Raise capital at the New York Stock Exchange. Our next guest is the CIO and managing partner at Atreides Management. You've heard him on Invest Like the Best many times. Gavin Baker, welcome to the show. How are you doing?
Doing great, man. How are you guys?
Fantastically, right? SpaceX IPO. It seems like everything went just flawlessly to a T, like to the point where it wasn't even
Let's
dramatic.
give a round of applause for the bankers.
The bankers, like 20% perfect.
20% pop, almost to a T.
Yeah, what I mean by that is like it would have been more dramatic if it had like popped up 70% and then went down 30 and then went up 50 and it was drama, but it was just like perfect execution from start to finish. Was that how you interpreted it?
I thought Goldman Sachs and Morgan Stanley did a very good job.
Yeah. What do you think the market is looking for SpaceX next? Is it all eyes on the first earnings report? Like, where do we go from here? Because there's so much of the SpaceX story pre-IPO that was a decade out, 5 years out, 2 years out. But is the market going to be processing quarter by quarter plays like many other companies?
Well, I think the market is always, quarters matter.
Yeah.
The runners on X, it's like they're these reply people on X for any topic or experts.
Yeah.
But somebody once told me a marathon is 26 1-mile runs.
Yeah.
And so, and then all the runners were like, no, that's not true at all. Running, obviously running a mile is different than running a marathon. But, every quarter matters. But at the same time, I do think if you look at how the market has looked at Tesla over the last 5-6 years, Amazon during kind of the days of, when they were building out AWS, and then, kind of their retail distribution infrastructure when they'd go through these investment cycles. I do think the public market has a much greater tolerance for investment and a much longer time horizon than a lot of people in the venture ecosystem give it credit for. By the way, this is Foxy in the back. He's one of the analysts here at Atreides.
I was just listening to him on the Brad Gerstner podcast. I think he chimed in on that, right? You brought him with? There we go.
Yes, he did. But he did the work on SpaceX, so I thought you guys might want to talk about that. But I do think that I'm not sure the story is as far out as you made it seem to be. Mm-hmm. I think there are two variables that are going to matter a lot over the next year. Mm-hmm. The first is just how quickly can they bring on terrestrial compute. Yeah. It does seem like they monetize gigawatts at a higher rate than anyone else. Yeah. And we know from Jensen that they bring on data centers faster than anyone else, per Jensen's words. Yeah. And everyone in the ecosystem is really incented to get landed power in the hands of people who can energize it, because everybody starts making more money when the GPUs are energized. So, if they can, what was the altimeter figure for what they were monetizing gigawatts at, Foxy? Do you remember for which deal?
Well, I think it was like 2 to 3. Wasn't it like at least 2 times higher than like average neocloud pricing? And that's partly due to scale and customer quality and things like that. But it was meaningful.
Yeah, so they're doing $50 billion a gigawatt on the Google deal. Wow. So how quickly they can add gigawatts really matters. Yeah. Right? If you can energize 2, 3, 4 gigawatts in the next year, that's a lot of revenue. Now, that prices may go up, they may go down, but that's really going to matter.
So all eyes on Colossus 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, et cetera, at least in the short term.
Yeah, or macro hard, macro harder, macro.
Hardest.
to that name, macro artist.
Yeah.
And then I think cursor is another big variable.
Yeah.
We talked about it with Brad about how Composer 2.5, after 3 weeks of, RL and supervised fine tuning in Colossus 2, is kind of Pareto dominant. So what's going to happen when it's applied to a bigger, better base model? I do think cursor being in, half the Fortune 500 is interesting. So I think those two things, while I'm super excited for going to Mars and asteroid mining and a city and mass drivers on the moon, like all that stuff is awesome. And I think there's a, decent chance it happens in my lifetime. I just think there's much more tangible near-term drivers here.
Yeah.
How do you think about the tension of the cloud business versus their own application and model business? I think a lot of people were surprised when the initial Anthropic deal happened, purely because knowing Michael Truell, he would have been very excited.
That's my compute.
Get access.
He's like, hey, you got to share.
Data
I'm the only child around here.
And it feels like you can imagine SpaceX, bringing on a lot more compute very quickly. Yeah. But at the same time, every lab has had to go through this tension of like how much compute do we allocate to training versus inference.
A way to interpret that is that maybe the team at SpaceX is pretty confident in their ability to bring gigawatts online.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And the altimeter figure that they've ordered 20% of the Rubens, and the Rubin is an epic chip. Like Blackwell, it was really hard to get it online. Rubin is kind of a more drop-in replacement. It's a really, really good chip. You'll have the, the Grok LPUs integrated at some point in the next 6-9 months. So one way to interpret that is they're pretty confident that they can bring data centers online pretty quickly. But I also, I don't remember all of the details, but I do think there was an out in the Anthropic agreement that if they
and the Google deal.
Yeah, it could be short term.
So there you go.
Well, and that's what I just meant. It's like there is like a tension there where if there's a moment where maybe you want the compute, but you don't necessarily have all of the revenue yet, and so you could see. Anyways, I'm very confident they can figure it out.
Yeah, on the topic of like Elon Web Services, is there a world where SpaceX winds up building out more of what looks like AWS? Like we've seen between OpenAI and Anthropic, there's this tension of like, you got to be on AWS because ITAR or, the ecosystem or enterprises just want to be on AWS. They won't even go over to Azure or Google Cloud for whatever. And you could imagine like is it enough to just be a token factory, or do you need to have a database and an in-memory storage and cloud storage and cold storage and all the things that AWS provides?
My thought is that being a token factory is more than enough for the next 5 to 10 years, man. We need more token factories.
Yeah.
But we'll see. And if they need that stuff, they will build it.
Yeah. How are you thinking about the other hyperscalers, the other big tech companies? We were sort of puzzling over Meta's strategy at this point. Tons of resources, cash flow, data centers. They have experience there. Maybe they're not as fast as SpaceX, but there's a lot there. But it's a completely different motion to go into token factory, and yet there's still a lot of demand. So how do you think all of that plays out?
Well, I think there's many ways to go to the token factory business. You could, if you're Meta, you could just say to someone like Fireworks, hey, here are 100,000 GPUs. We'll take a revenue split and we'll see what happens.
Yep.
I am increasingly looking at EV to net PP&E as a valuation metric. Just with the idea being installed atoms on Earth, I think are going to appreciate in value. This is a little bit that halo trade that I think maybe Goldman Sachs came up with, high asset value, low obsolescence.
Yeah.
But Meta's EV to net PP&E multiple is in an interesting place. It just suggests that the market has an immense amount of skepticism about their ability to monetize their own asset base.
And I think that's warranted, given that all we've really got out of management is this concept of personal superintelligence. And it would be different if Meta AI was like at the top of the App Store and everyone you were talking to was like, yeah, I'm using Meta AI.
Or there was like a killer feature within Instagram.
Yeah,
it's like, oh, people are shopping in Instagram now.
And I think no one doubts that like once Zuck has an AI product with $1 billion of revenue, he can take it to tens of billions. But it's unclear. I feel like going into enterprise, like what is this API business gonna look like? We know they can use the GPUs just on making the ads product better at the end of the day, and but there's a lot of questions.
I think a few things. I do think if I look at the way different players are behaving, it feels like everyone thinks we're entering the end game. Everybody, loves to use these chess analogies, and it looks like the end game may be here sooner than we think. I think that's why OpenAI is cutting codex pricing. Simply because coding tokens are so valuable. And if you don't have enough of them, you may not be able to get into this RSI loop that everyone is,
pushing for.
And I think if you're Zuckerberg, you feel that acutely. I thought Muse
Spark.
It was, to me, it was an upside surprise, and it made me feel like, what's from Talladega Nights, or what is it? So you're saying there's a chance?
Oh yeah.
So you're telling me there's a chance?
I mean, the other quote from Talladega Nights is, "If you're not first, you're last."
And
that's how a lot of people.
There's so many good quotes from Talladega Nights.
He sold the windshield.
Yeah, 100%. But I think if I'm pretty confident Mark Zuckerberg has proven to be a good entrepreneur over time and has been willing to pivot, and it's so funny, right now Facebook is, Meta is telling investors there's like no chance that we're going to, monetize GPUs externally. Well, like 10 days before they announced all those layoffs, which I think was at the end of 22. If not, I don't remember when they started to announce the layoffs. It was shortly after Brad, maybe 2 months after Brad wrote that letter to Mark where he said, "You're the king, you can do whatever you want, but this is what I might respectfully encourage you to do." They went from saying, we're not going to do that, we're going to keep investing, to, super focused on OpEx in a couple of days, man. So it's like people, they meet with Meta and they hear, oh, we're not going to monetize our GPUs externally. Well, I don't know. Check back in a few hours.
Yeah. No, it's like everyone. It comes down to like everyone has a price. You look at Elon and Anthropic's relationship 4 months ago, and then you look at kind of as the opportunity unfolded. It made sense for them to partner. I wanted to ask how
on the Meta thing. I think there is one point that's important. What ultimately drives behavior for all these big cap companies, like getting to AI, I think that does feel existential for all of them. But the stock price also really matters.
Sure.
Because if the stock goes down, you gave people a grant at this price, stock goes down, your engineers are unhappy, and it's tougher to get to where you want to go if you don't have, these, now forget the 10x engineer. People are talking about the 10,000x engineer.
Yeah.
You're not going to get there if you don't keep those 10,000x engineers.
Yeah.
So I think, we'll see with Meta.
Yeah.
Yeah. How did this IPO update your general kind of framework for the role that retail is playing in capital markets? A lot of it was very funny last week to see people say the IPO is only 2x oversubscribed by retail.
Yeah, they're dumping.
All these other $3 billion IPOs were 10x oversubscribed, and it's like, no, we're talking about a very order of magnitude difference here. But it still feels like retail is going to play a very, very important role over the next 12 months, maybe more so than ever, given that the hyperscalers are now running, cash flow negative. You have the conflict in the Middle East, right? There's rebuilding efforts that needs to happen, and so I feel like retail. This is kind of retail's moment now, maybe more than ever.
Yeah, well, so a few things. One, people say retail in a pejorative way, and I would just say stupid is as stupid does. And we track, there's all these indices of retail favorites, and man, they're up a lot, and they're up a lot in 25, and they're up a lot in 24. So kind of stupid is as stupid does. So I'm not, I think retail is probably outperforming the overwhelming majority of professional money managers, whether they're, private equity managers, venture, public equity managers, whatever. So retail, I don't think it's pejorative. Yeah. I do actually think in the case of SpaceX, I'm not sure, you process so much information. I'm not sure where this comes from, but I actually think after the IPO, for whatever reason, some of that retail stock may have gotten allocated to people who were flipping it, because my understanding is there was more institutional buying. I don't know where this after the IPO there was retail buying. Now I'm sure retail is very sensitive to momentum, so maybe what's happening today changes that. But I think another really underappreciated thing about the SpaceX IPO is that over 10,000 SpaceX employees bought on the IPO. And that's just, everybody does all these lockup analyses and, how much stock is going to come to market. And, for sure, there's all these triple layer SPVs or whatever, or maybe there are, people speculate there are. And I'm sure some of that will get unwound. Mm-hmm. But the reality is that SpaceX employees own a lot of this. And if you're an employee, or even if you're an investor who has an SPV, or you're directly on the cap table, you've had a chance to sell every 6 months for the last 10 years. Yeah. If you wanted to sell, you could have sold in, when they did that offering in the second half of last year. Yeah. So I think the supply demand dynamics here are going to be very interesting. But with retail in general, man, they've been a more powerful force in the market over the last 3.5 years than at any other time in my career, including the year 2000 bubble, which I think this is nothing like, by the way. Mm-hmm. But yeah, they matter, and stupid is as stupid does.
I'm interested to go a click deeper on the idea of value will accrue to companies that are in the token path. I think that phrase is extremely powerful right now, but I want to sort of expand it and understand the fringes of the token path, because we talked to Matthew Prince at Cloudflare, stocks at all-time highs. It's delivering tokens at the edge, and obviously there's an immense amount of AI agents that are interfacing with different websites. They need to be distributed. So there's a lot of value there, but is Cloudflare in the token path if they're the one finally sending you the packet of tokens at the edge? Or does that not count? How do you think about that?
Every CDN has this business. Akamai, they signed, what was it, a $1.8 billion with Anthropic. And if you have all these points of presence and you can deliver really low latency tokens to high value users, I think what's interesting for cloud, for all these CDNs is they're getting a massive premium for that latency. Yeah. It turns out, one of the lessons from Cerebras is people are willing to pay for speed. Yeah. And you see that in the prices these guys are commanding. But I do think, my gut is in terms of tokens consumed on planet Earth, these CDNs are delivering less than 1% of them. And maybe less than 10 basis points of them.
Most of the tokens are happening internally, and then you just get the result. Yeah.
Would I say that these guys are in the token path? I would say they have a path towards being in the token path. Yeah. And they have part of their business that's in it today. Yeah. And they're trying, and like everyone, they're trying to move it more and more there.
Yeah, Matthew was talking about co-locating NVIDIA servers on the edge, specifically for the delivery of voice models, because you want those to be very low latency. Maybe you want your coding model to go off and cook in Virginia for 20 minutes or an hour and then come back to you with the final result. But if you're trying to actually talk to a model, you probably want it as fast as possible. What about on the opposite end?
Wasn't there that startup that NVIDIA just invested in that will
on your house
money to put a GPU, a four GPU server on the outside of your house? I mean, yeah,
GPUs are going everywhere, going in your bed eventually.
I mean, it's full circle too, because
wasn't
Jensen talking about stuff like that back during like the original crypto cycle, being like everyone's going to be mining.
Yeah, and I mean the Tesla Powerwall is like a version of that for storing energy. It doesn't store compute, but it stores energy locally on the edge, off the grid, and there's a lot of powerful things that get unlocked by that. What about land? Is land in the token path at some point on the extreme other end? Because people are obviously searching for going further and further upstream. They found a toilet company that makes a particular material that goes into semiconductor supply chain. People are hunting for like the final ingredient. Maybe it's just sand that turns into silicon.
Yeah, I do think the bottleneck bros, as they are called, are this like bottleneck trade is kind of nearing its end.
Okay,
and I did. The Wall Street Journal had the story about this Japanese company that makes, I forget what they make. It's
Isn't it Toto?
Ajinomoto.
Yeah.
Ajinomoto. And, everybody's in this because they thought they were going to raise prices. And then they just said, we're actually not going to raise prices. This is the wrong thing for us. And I almost posted yesterday on X, welcome to Japan, to all of the bottleneck people. But, everybody's, having Claude run. What's the next bottleneck?
Yeah.
That was the game for the last year. The next game is what has enduring franchise value.
Yeah.
Kind of on the other side of these bottlenecks, whenever that is.
Mm-hmm.
As far as land, is land a bottleneck? Man, I do think the math for orbital compute, to me, once they can reuse Starship, I think the math for orbital compute becomes pretty compelling. It's just $60 billion to bring on a gig terrestrially. 25 is power and cooling. You don't need that in space. Yeah. And so the right comp for that $35 billion of kind of, IT equipment, GPUs, CPUs, switches, memory storage, is that $25 billion versus the cost of launch. And once Starship is reusable, I think the cost of launch is $5 billion. So that means you can put a gig into space for $30 billion, and the gig on Earth is $60 billion. And that 25, the power and cooling, feels reasonably inflationary to me.
Sure.
So I don't know that I would say land is in the token path.
Maybe beachfront property, but that's about it.
Yeah, beachfront property is beachfront property. Airplanes, really nice cars.
Yep, firmly in the token path.
All that stuff is in the token path.
I gotcha.
How do you think the events of last week with Anthropic and DC update different countries on their own sovereign AI play? Because there's been attempts. It doesn't feel like many of the attempts have you can have a powered shell and you can have the best GPUs, but if you don't have the talent, it's going to be really hard to get to the frontier. And now if you don't have massive usage, it'll also be really hard to get to the frontier. And so do you think the ship has sailed?
No, well, look, I think every country is going to want to have their own sovereign AI strategy at a minimum for national defense. Mm-hmm. I think where that ends up is I saw today that the EU had restricted exports of Mistrals.
I think that's a joke. I think that's a meme. So people have gone so far on the Mistral Le Chat thing, Le Chaton, that they're saying it's like Mythos is distilled on it and it's breaking all the benchmarks. I think it's a good model, but I don't know that it's quite there yet.
Yeah.
But you can imagine that we get there for sure.
Yeah, so I think what sovereign AI will look like for essentially all countries, really, other than the United States and China, although I think China is going to fall further and further behind, is just some sort of you use one of these providers to do some reinforcement learning on your language, your culture, your values. You have a system prompt. You do some supervised fine tuning. And you run that on whatever the best open source model is. I think that's where sovereign AI ends up. And then you run it in your own data centers so you feel like, it's safe, and whatever defense questions you're asking it or whatever, forget questions, whatever, defense and intelligence and maybe, policing activities your sovereign AI agents are doing, 24 hours a day, you feel like they're safe.
Yeah.
So I think that's where sovereign AI ends up. And I think, there'll still be a big build out for that. But man, sovereign AI at the frontier, I don't see it.
Yeah. What do you think the drivers are of the widening gap between Chinese open source models and American closed source models is?
China's made a terrible mistake not, taking, it feels like the administration has been willing to let them buy H200s or B30s.
Oh, yeah.
And I think they're on this, they have this crazy belief that, our own internal chips are good enough. They're not.
Yeah.
And then, I think what's making them think that is that Chinese labs are very, very good at distillation. Mm-hmm. Somebody told me it only took 160,000 reasoning traces from 01 and 03 to get the original DeepSeek. Yeah. They're very clever at industrial scale distillation, running it through multiple APIs, pinging each API from, we've all seen those iPhone farms in China. Yeah. They've got the same thing for distillation, and they've got, 100,000 endpoints distilling these models across every API available. They've gotten really, really good at that. But man, all that goes away if people stop releasing these models at the frontier. And I think Mythos is a sign of things to come there.
Yeah, yeah. It seems like they're getting much better at locking down the reasoning traces, locking down the espionage. It feels like back during the 01 days, the labs weren't even aware that distillation was so possible that was something that was such a potential threat for sure. Jordan, please.
Is any part of you worried that you'll never see another company like SpaceX?
Worried is the wrong word.
Not worried, but like you have to appreciate that a moment like that, it's possible that you have an opportunity to invest in a company like that one time in your career, and thank God you did it, because there's plenty of people that had the opportunity and didn't. And
well, I did own 15% of NVIDIA when it was a sub $2 billion market cap, but I owned 10% of Tesla when it was a sub $2 billion market cap. But SpaceX, certainly, it's been a special experience for me. Mm-hmm. And I think there is a chance that it is, one of the most important, iconic companies of all time. I mean, it already is. Mm-hmm. Maybe there's a chance it's the most. And I think in general, it's just I kind of want to take a step back and all this trillionaire hate from the left. It's like there's a great post from my friend Kevin Mahaffey saying this is a Bond villain who's decarbonizing the world. Last time I checked, people on the left were like the environment, connecting poor people in low-income countries, schools and hospitals to the internet at very low cost. And he's helping blind people see today and, interact with the world. That's a villain. And then just there's so many parts of the SpaceX story, all of the, blue-collar workers who've gotten super well. If you're opposed to data centers on Earth because of the environment, well, SpaceX is your solution. So, there was another great post that just said, the left won and they don't even appreciate it. The world's first trillionaire, has done more to kind of solve the environment than everyone else on Earth combined.
Yep.
I saw there was another good one. It's Elon could solve world hunger by market selling every piece of stock that he has and send the world into a global economic downturn, losing millions of jobs in the process.
Somebody said that Elon that the World Bank could solve hunger with $5 billion, and he said if you prove it to me, I'll do it.
Yeah, of course.
And turns out you can't solve world hunger for $5 billion.
Yeah.
But SpaceX is certainly, I would say, SpaceX, NVIDIA, Tesla, they've all been very special to me in kind of a different way. But, man, there is nothing like a rocket launch. And so I just don't think as a visceral experience, I highly recommend everyone listening, you guys, if you have kids, take your kids to a launch. You don't want to go with SpaceX. Everybody's always get me the special tickets. You just you can go to a beach in Boca Chica and be where the special SpaceX viewing area is. You could literally be closer to the launch.
Yeah.
There's hotels near Vandenberg. Take your kids, see a launch. It's super inspirational that humans are capable of this, and it's much more visceral than you realize. You know, the sound, the blast of hot air. A lot of people cry. So go see a launch, but there will be I'm pretty skeptical that there will be another company that delivers a visceral experience like that. And then listen, if SpaceX puts a city on the moon and then Mars and enables, becomes the British East India Company of the solar system, I think this will, and there's a lot of hard engineering that needs to happen to go into all that. This will probably be the most important company of certainly my lifetime, but maybe of all time. And so from that sense, I don't think there will ever be anything else like it. And yeah, I guess that is a little bit sad, but you know what? There's so much awesome stuff happening in the world that it's tough for me to get too down, man.
I love it.
Yeah, hard to be too.
I have one last question. We have you mentioned owning NVIDIA sub $2 billion. What is the health of the sub $2 billion market right now? Is there anything that you're excited about?
Is there anything that the bobottleneck bros haven't ran up?
You haven't run up to $1 trillion
the bottleneck
yet?
bros have taken everything under $2 billion, above $2
maybe
billion.
maybe not even like public companies, but private areas. I mean, we're starting to see the knock-on effects of AI in bio and material science, and like Neuralink was sub $2 billion for a long time, right? And so there are more not in theme, but accelerated by. So I don't know. There's also just SaaS company.
There's loads of incredible venture companies, startups under $2 billion.
Yeah.
Like loads of them.
Yeah.
I talk to them, several times a week minimum.
Yeah.
In public, until the bottleneck bros came along, until AI came along, there was not a lot happening in public small cap land.
Yeah.
And by the way, on this, all these small caps, these bottlenecks, this AI, it does feel a little weird to me that you can have a large following on social media, post about, buy stock in something,
yeah,
and then post about, outline your thesis in a $35 million market cap company and send it up 1,000%. And there's a lot of that going on. And by the way, this is not like a serenity comment. I think that guy's that person is smart, but I mean, there's a lot of shady stuff happening, it feels like to me.
Sure.
Well, yeah, and
happens,
you look back at you were a young analyst at Fidelity, right, during the end of the .com cycle, and there was a lot of just euphoria stuff happening, and in the years that followed, there was consequences, right? There were people ultimately had to face.
Sometimes civil penalties, all sorts of different things. Companies went bankrupt.
Yeah.
There were all sorts of different, perturbations in the market. And of course, we got a bunch of really enduring generational companies through that period too.
Although a lot of these accounts are anonymous, and I'm sure they're logged into social media with a made-up email.
Yeah.
Gone through a VPN, and so. I don't know. We'll see.
It is different than a sell-side research report that maybe goes a little bit too far, but there's still a whole compliance department around it. We are in uncharted territory, so everyone needs to stay safe out there and do your own research, I suppose.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, guys, man, this was super fun.
This was great. Let's do it again soon.
Come on more.
Thank you so much.
Anytime. Let's get the whole team on too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
great to have both of you guys.
That's actually fun.
Yeah, it'd be
Let's
great.
do that with the whole team.
It'd be amazing.
That's awesome.
I would love it. Yeah. Yeah, you got a conference.
You
got a
guys
conference
can just
room with a nice wide angle camera. You can just have the whole crew there. That's great.
Bring us into a partner meeting.
Let's do it.
Exactly.
Awesome.
Great to hang with you
Have
guys.
a great rest of your
guys.
day. Thank you so much for coming on. We'll talk to you soon. Let me tell you about CrowdStrike. Your business is AI. Their business is securing it. CrowdStrike secures AI and stops breaches. Our next guest is Leif Abraham from Public. He's the co-founder, co-CEO, here to break down what happened on Public when SpaceX went public. How you doing, Leif? Good to see you. Beautiful background.
What's up, guys?
Hope you're enjoying New York City. What's up?
It's fantastic.
Great to see you.
Was Friday crazy for you? Was the weekend crazy for you? Is today crazy for you? Is it all just like crazy in the, wow, this is a historic moment versus like crazy at the office, like the servers are on fire? Like, does that happen with you?
Yeah, I mean, by now it's obviously more kind of business as usual when IPOs happen. But on Friday, definitely, I mean, SpaceX was the most popular IPO that we have seen on the app ever, by like a wide margin. And, to give an example of like, of everyone who bought a stock on Friday, nearly half of people who bought a stock on Friday bought SpaceX. Right? So, which is obviously quite crazy, right? Like another thing was like
diagram is a circle.
The like second most traded stock was Nvidia, and SpaceX was like 533% more trading than Nvidia that day, right?
That's
and so definitely, the like one of the kind of craziest IPOs that we've seen so far.
Yeah. What was the retail allocation actually like on the ground? We heard numbers like it's double oversubscribed, but then the number that I saw reported was like 100 billion for retail. And that seemed like way more than what would actually go to retail because so much of it is going to be anchored by the banks and what I would not put in the retail bucket, like JP Morgan's, like, clients, right?
And you would think so, but I think when people talk retail, they think what you and I were just thinking of, like basically people who use retail investing apps like Public and the like.
Individuals, and they're making the decisions.
Individuals are like self-directed, and so on.
Not necessarily not a fund.
But retail is still, the rich guy who has a JP Morgan advisor and stuff. That still counts as retail, right? And when you see, and I know it was first about 30%, then it was like down to 20% in terms of like retail allocation of it. You did still see that, at least, sort of, happen anecdotally, but like you did still see that at the end of the day, when these retail allocations happen these days, it still mostly goes to the good, wealthy customers of the big banks and their wealth management arms first. And that's why you saw the retail brokerages that had some allocation, ended up mostly giving people like one share and stuff. And that is because most of that 20% still went to, the good long-term customer with a very large account at JP Morgan and Merrill and whatnot, right? So that is still the reality. And I think the main thing there is that, the banks who are in most cases also like the ones who are underwriting the IPOs, they are kind of managing most of the process. They will sell it to retail allocation, et cetera. The most companies that go public maybe also don't really have not saying SpaceX, but most companies don't necessarily really have the perfect understanding of like the nuances in retail. And I think, that's why you're still seeing that the banks who are underwriting are like pushing their weight around. And at the end of the day, most of that still goes to, the wealth management customers and stuff.
Can you talk a little bit about either the research that you're seeing folks do or maybe the research that you're enabling with Public's tools? Specifically, I read a very interesting report in the Financial Times where they visualized over the next year how the lockup will actually play out. It's a very low float stock early on, gets added to the indices, and there's all these different milestones that, you could just say it's all priced in already, but I imagine that many investors will care and want to buy ahead of a index purchase, but after a lockup ends or something like that. And I'm just wondering about how you can actually help a investor understand those dynamics.
Yeah, I don't have the perfect schedule in front of me right now, but first off, I think this IPO specifically that the banks likely have done a pretty damn good job. Like in terms of the pop was there, it was sizable, but it wasn't ridiculous necessarily. Even now on day two, like the stock clearly is holding up. And then the whole orchestration of the kind of multi-stage unlock of the float at the same time, or the lockup at the same time where, obviously like the whole renegotiation with the, adding to the NASDAQ 100 and so on, which then creates more buy pressure on the other side as the other ones kind of, get unlocked. And I think that orchestration, we'll see how it all plays out as it kind of really unwinds. But it's clearly very well thought out. And if you would judge the performance of that, orchestration so far throughout this IPO and stuff, I would argue compared to many other IPOs, this has been very well executed, right? So my hunch is that a lot of smart people have done some good work there. That I don't know if you can really play it like that. Because,
sure.
There's surely smarter people than you and me that have models that have all figured that out.
So there's clearly continues to be more retail demand than allocation for these blockbuster IPOs. On one hand, Elon has benefited tremendously from like the power of retail, right? It helps to have a bunch of people invest at like, low two-digit, billions, with Tesla and sort of ride that up, right? But I feel like one of the challenges for retail to actually get meaningful allocation is just the lack of like reliability and the flipping risk associated with allocating to retail. I'm sure Elon, in a perfect world, would love to say like, yeah, we're going to give half of the IPO to retail, but then there's going to be that risk that people are like, not as reliable as the big, institutions and things like that, or certain even clients of the private banks that want to make sure they're in the next IPO. So how do you think that gets solved? Is there a world in the future where like retail has like a true lockup, like they cannot sell versus just saying like, hey, please don't sell? What do you think happens?
Yeah, I mean, so as a broker, what most brokers do, and also what the companies who IPO kind of ask for is just like, what's your flipping policy? And is that, in most cases, if you flip within a certain time frame, you basically get restricted from future IPOs, and that's like one of the kind of forcing functions. But from a pure securities law perspective, you can't create this notion where, once the stock is common stock publicly trading, like every investor has to be treated equally. You can't then suddenly be like, well, I don't trust you, retail investors, so you can't sell, but the other institution that sold it to, they can. Those things can't really happen. But I think from a retail investor perspective, it really depends on, obviously, like the at the end, the platform in most cases, right? So in our space, I would always divide it up as like trading platforms, where they have that focus, right? Trading platforms and like investing platforms. And like trading is basically like your chart-based first product, technical analysis, where we have your options and futures and so on. And in that world, you do actually have a flipping culture. Like there's Reddits about it. There's like, like Telegram groups, et cetera, about, where basically people like try to find multiple access points to an IPO just for the matter of like flipping it. But I would say that is a small sliver of the retail market. Most people are actually more buying and holding. And what we've seen with IPOs in our history, our like net share retention on IPOs is like 125% roughly, which basically also means that people actually add to their positions afterwards. And so they get shares allocated, but didn't get everything that they wanted, obviously, so far always. And then, but then they add to it as it starts trading in the public markets. And I think most cases what you're seeing, because like normal retail investors, like by the way, we're not traders, we're people who like build up portfolios for their livelihood and stuff. Like they are mostly people that like hold stocks, right? And that's what you've seen also with like the diehard Tesla crew, like in the past, these people were people who were tweeting out pictures of, their monthly DCA, their monthly dollar cost average into their Tesla stock because they got a new paycheck, And I think that is the much more normal behavior, I think, than this true flipping thing. So I think it exists, but I think it's a little bit, maybe the fear is a little overstated, I would argue.
There were a lot of people that were upset about SpaceX's inclusion in indices. Maybe they don't like Elon for political reasons. Maybe they don't like the stock because of the revenue multiple. There's a variety of gripes that people have. But I saw Jason Calacanis fire back, say, hey, you can create a synthetic index that, you want to own the S&P 499. Just go do that. And it seemed a little complicated. How complicated is it actually to do that today if you're genuinely so bearish on SpaceX that it can't touch your portfolio? Because you could go short or you could just buy everything else in equal proportion, but then there's reweighting that happens and it's sort of complicated. But where are we from someone being able to just do that with a prompt or a click these days?
Well, I love the question because I can perfectly now do a put an ad in here. So the simplest way is we would just go to public.com, sign up. And there's something called
public.com.
There's something called direct indexing. There you go.
There you go.
Fantastic. So, and there's direct indexing, which basically means you can buy the S&P. You can customize it. You can be, you know what? I want to have the S&P 500 without this and that stock. You can have rebalancing built in, even Texas harvesting built in, which means you can actually, save some money just on, take just on
selling the losers,
taxes there as well.
Yeah,
so that's selling the losers, and reweighting over time. And so that is super easy now, at least on public, and is something that a lot of people do. I think the main thing that really was, I think what a lot of people got upset with was that people have trust in these indices because of the rigid frameworks that they have.
Yep, have to be profitable for a certain amount of quarters.
Exactly.
Have to be a certain size. Yeah, totally makes sense. I understand the critique.
And so the minute it was basically like, oh, now we're making exemptions suddenly, I think a lot of people were just getting upset with that. And basically be like, hey, what the fuck? Like, I put my life savings into this because of these frameworks, and I have basically agreed to them or whatever. I believe in however you structure it. And I think that was mostly what kind of came from.
And also, like, when I think about the S&P 500, I think most people mentally think, okay, I'm going to have 0.2% in every company, but of course it's cap weighted. And when you see a 2 trillion behemoth come into the index, you're like, well, that could be like 3% of my portfolio, maybe 5% of my portfolio if it runs. And I don't want that index exposure necessarily. Of course, everyone has different risk tolerances, different preferences, but good to know that there's an alternative out there. Jordy, anything else?
I was going to say, if you have 30 more seconds to answer, how do you think the SpaceX IPO impacts how bankers and companies are thinking about potentially other IPOs this year? Obviously, retail's quite strong. They want exposure, and it's at a level that is pretty unprecedented.
And also the market, I felt like there was one narrative where it was like, if SpaceX wins, everyone else loses because there's going to be so much rotation out of everything else. But the market's performed well today and stuff, and that's not what's happened at all.
Yeah, I don't know. I would argue there's so much money in the world that it's totally fine. I think if you look at the big institutions that put multi-billion-dollar checks into SpaceX, a lot of those were even like existing investors and so on that kind of doubled down their positions and stuff, and so I wouldn't necessarily think of that argument. I do think that because this IPO, at least so far, has been really executed quite well, that it makes everyone very confident on the next ones.
Yeah.
And so, if I would be now Anthropic or OpenAI or something, I would like to look at this one now and be like, okay, fantastic, the market is ready, and the bankers seem to be ready as well. Yeah. So I would say this. I would argue it's a very good sign of general confidence and so on.
White pill on a white suit day. There you go.
Yeah.
What else? Sorry, I cut you off.
Whatever.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Great to see you
on the show. Always great to see you.
Cool.
We'll talk to you soon. Have a great
soon.
rest of your day.
Yeah.
Goodbye. Let me tell you about Cisco. Critical infrastructure for the AI era. Unlock seamless real-time experiences and new value with Cisco. Fox is buying Roku, the streaming service, for $25 billion. It's in the Wall Street Journal.
25 or 22?
$25 billion in the Wall Street Journal here. Let me refresh the page, see if they updated it. It still says 25.
Weird.
I'll read
Barron's is
through
reporting $22 billion.
Okay.
But
well,
who knows?
Somewhere in the north of $1 billion, sub $100 billion. Let's be very conservative with our estimates.
Yeah, CNBC also $22 billion.
Okay.
Weird
well,
that the Journal is...
The Journal might have inside information, given that it's a News Corp property related there, right? Anyway, let's read through the Journal piece, which might be wrong. I don't know.
Go for it.
Let me just give you some facts, and then you can sort of give me some takes and contextualize it with more information. So Fox Corp said it's acquiring Roku in a deal valued around $25 billion. So the Wall Street Journal saying around. Is 22 around? Maybe. Making a major bet on the future of ad-supported streaming. Ad-supported streaming, obviously Netflix pivoted to ads after saying we're not going to do ads. Turned out to be a great business. Ads are undefeated, and
Consumers
more people want.
Down with ads.
They're just down with ads, especially if they're good ads. Anyway, the Fox, the deal. The deal is Fox's largest to date. It brings together a media company known for its live news and sports programming with the biggest provider of streaming platforms for connected TVs. It will add scale to Fox's streaming business, currently home to free ad-supporting streaming service Tubi, which the company bought for $400 million in 2020, and subscription-based Fox One and Fox Nation. In addition to distributing,
Tubi, from my understanding, has been a home run.
Yes.
I don't remember exactly what the revenue is, but they bought it for 400. It's in the billions now.
And all the metrics about actual audience size are huge. And putting up, getting to tens of millions of dollars in revenue, hundreds of millions of dollars in ad sales against a big audience like the Tubi viewership, when you have the Fox machinery behind it, makes a ton of sense.
Yep.
In addition to distributing other streaming services through connected TVs and devices, Roku has its own ad-supported Roku channel. The combined company will better compete with the likes of Amazon.com and Netflix for ad dollars. Quote, bringing these two companies together will really help define the future of television in the United States and in many other markets around the world, Fox chief executive Lachlan Murdoch told investors on a call Monday. Fox will pay around $160 per share, $96 in cash, and 0.9693 Fox Class A shares. The deal is valued at around $22 billion on an enterprise basis. Fox expects to fund the cash portion of the transaction with $12 billion in new debt as well as cash on hand. The combined company expects to cut around $400 million in annual costs. Fox plans to keep Tubi and the Roku channel as separate offerings. Consumers are increasingly opting for free and lower cost ad-supported streaming options as the cost of subscriptions marches ever higher. Ad-supported streaming plans now represent almost 50% of all premium subscription ad video on demand signups in the US, up from 39% just 2 years ago. More than 100 million global households stream with Roku. Roku is the largest streaming platform for connected TVs with 25% market share. Samsung's Tizen is number 2 at 23%. And then I'm sure probably Amazon's Fire TV is not far behind. Fox remained on the sidelines during the heady early days of streaming boom, pouring money instead into programming for its cable channels and buying up sports rights. It launched Fox Nation in 2018 and introduced direct-to-consumer Fox One, which includes sports and Fox News last year. Fox said last month that Tubi had nearly 100 million monthly active users, and its revenue had grown by 23% in the fiscal third quarter. And so the Fox's stock is down today. Roku is down 2%, something like that. And the market doesn't like it. Take Him has a take here. We can read through his opinion. He says, I don't understand how this Roku deal makes any sense. Bringing together the most valuable live
I'll
content.
tell you how it makes
How does it make sense?
No, so I think it makes sense. One, Fox, they have a great product in Tubi, right? It's, again, there are certain people that are happy with their HBO or Netflix or whatever, but Tubi has a great niche. It's been a great acquisition for Fox, north of $1 billion of revenue. That is a product. Roku is a platform. They have over 20% market share in connected TVs. I was looking at the data. They have over 40% of the engagement with connected TVs. So when you think about it from an advertising potential, right, it's not just that they have 20% of the connected TV market. They have over 40% of like the watch time effectively, right? So looking at the potential from an advertising standpoint and how many dollars are still yet to shift from traditional television to connected TV. So from that lens, I think it's great. Roku's also a much younger demo, so like a lot of media properties, right, especially television related, are going to be older demos that are eventually going to be aging out, at least of like prime consumers. But these are consumers that are in their prime earning years, prime years as consumers, and so ultimately, I think it makes sense. I think it makes sense for Fox. Next, the thing that I hope that they can do as a consumer is rebundle, right? We've just gone through this era of unbundling, and the fact that you get a new TV and you're like, okay, great, let me log into 10 different services, something like that. I would like to see them do I would like to see them do something in bundling for consumers. So again, looking at it from the lens of like having north of 40% of like watch time, right? That is a super valuable property, and like with the right ad-driven approach, I think it'll pay off.
I wonder how windowing fits into this. Like, when I grew up, I didn't have cable, but you would get a prestige movie played on ABC like once a week. And for a while, that was the flow on Netflix. And HBO was like its own premium subscription. You go open up the HBO app, it's all premium series and movies. And then some of that would trickle down, but then it feels like the ecosystem sort of branched a little bit, where Netflix stopped getting like the James Cameron library for a while, and Disney started hoovering up some of that, keeping some of the really popular movies, the Marvel franchise, off of Netflix, even for later run, a year or two after, because there was more competition from the actual different pieces of the different studios. So I wonder if Roku will be able to provide some sort of like neutral territory in some ways, where viewers can pick up something that's in the premium end, something that's, you know, a sequel to a franchise that they know and love, but it's not seen as competitive as you know, Disney versus HBO or whatever. We will see. The history of Roku is interesting. We got to take you through this briefly. So it was founded by Anthony Wood, born in 1965. When he was a teenager, he published Lunar Lander in the Ahoy magazine, earned a bachelor's degree in electrical engineering from Texas A&M. He met his wife there. Now they have 3 children. Congratulations. They live in Palo Alto. But in college, Wood founded his first company, AW Software. AW Software. What do you think the AW stands for? He's putting his name on the line.
On the line.
Andrew Wood Software.
I got to meet Anthony recently.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
No way. That's awesome. So he was selling computer programs. He founded Sunrise Industries while studying engineering, developing software for the Amiga, the original Amiga system. After graduating, he founded I think this is his third company, and it's called Sunrise Version 2. Later in 1995, he launched another company, iBand, and iBand sold to Macromedia for $36 million in 95. That's a lot of money. And Macromedia, of course, was the makers of Adobe Flash. He left in 97 after 2 years to launch Replay TV, which was a digital video recorder DVR. For you'd have something coming in over the antenna, and you would be able to record it and watch it later, much like TiVo. TiVo was their main competitor. In 2002, he founded Roku, his 6th startup to market home devices. Roku means 6 in Japanese, and he's just like, it's the 6th time I'm doing this. Imagine being on the 6th startup. I'm number 4 or 3 or something like that. He also worked at Netflix. But the Roku history is sort of interesting. So he founded Replay TV. Replay TV was not successful, so he worked at Netflix. In 2007, Wood's company began working with Netflix on Project Griffin, a set-top box. Netflix was thinking about getting into hardware, and it would allow Netflix users to stream Netflix content to their TVs. Like they were working on like the Apple TV, basically. It was a crazy fork in the road. A few weeks before the project was due to launch, Netflix's founder, Reed Hastings, decided that it would hamper license agreements with third parties. All of our third-party license agreements, they're giving us content. They're going to be super upset about this. We're shelving this product. We're not doing it because we want to keep Netflix on all the other platforms. When the Apple TV comes out or whatever other box is out there, we want Netflix there. We don't want Apple cutting us off because they say, oh, you got your own box. You can live over there. You're not on ours. Not that Apple would necessarily do that, but that type of set-top box would not integrate. Or the smart TV would say, we are not integrating. And so Fast Company cited the decision to kill the project as one of Netflix's riskiest moves. Netflix then decided to spin off the company, and Roku released their first set-top box in 2008. In 2010, they began offering models with various capabilities, which eventually became their standard business model. And so they went on and wound up as a very successful company, now owned by Fox, as long as this deal clears.
Overall, real platform.
Yeah.
They already have a product that sits on top of it. Tons of advertising potential, and I think that regardless of whatever the market reaction is today, I expect that people will get it over time.
Well, Roku is ad supported, and we are too. So let me tell you about Console. Console builds AI agents that automate 70% of IT, HR, and finance support, giving employees instant resolution for access requests and password resets. Tyler Cowen shared some more thoughts on the recent Mythos brouhaha. It's a good term. This was all over. We talked about this earlier, but he says, according to not yet confirmed but likely true reports, it was shown that the model could be jailbroken. There's debate over this now. The released Mythos already restricted bio and AI improvement queries rather strictly in fact. So now we are back to the model not being available. Here are a few of the constraints on the U.S. government, not the only ones, I might add. One, it needs for the main companies to stay in business. On top of that, it wants their IPOs to go reasonably well. And it's now much harder for the top companies to recruit foreigners, which is a significant share of their highest quality workforce. Demis, Ilya, Andre, for a start, are all international engineers. It is much harder for the main competitors to drum up foreign business in a credible manner and sustainable manner. That's interesting. We haven't seen many breakout charts of how much revenue is domestic versus international, but we have seen reports of OpenAI and Anthropic doing big deals with international companies. Some of these companies, Fortune 500s, they just have global footprints, so they got to use the models everywhere, ideally, unless they do all of their software engineering in Silicon Valley. 1B, how are American multinationals operating abroad supposed to use top systems moving forward? That's literally what I just said. I just predicted the next line. Oops, I am a stochastic parrot. It wants to use model access as a tool of both hard and soft power. So model access has to be possible at some level, but it is very hard to control what foreign agents will do with partial model access when they get it in the future. 3, the U.S. needs to stay ahead of China in the AI race. This is a big question. We have Aaron Ginn from Hydra Host joining in just 10 minutes. We'll ask him for his perspective on this. 4, the U.S. needs to issue restrictions that are actually enforceable, and U.S. citizens only doesn't fit that bill. That's a good point. You might have some KYC, but it's very difficult when these APIs leak into other products. All of a sudden, you're prompting a model within a piece of SaaS. We've seen this with, you go to Slackbot in Slack, Salesforce product. There's an AI model under the hood that's vended in by Anthropic or OpenAI, depending on the deal, depending on the product. And that now needs to be passed along to understand, is this a U.S. citizen on the other end of the line? Let's find out. Furthermore, markets and everything. It is easy enough to hire a traitorous American to access tools of wrongdoing. That's a really good point. How can you verify that every American is loyal? Or for a matter, it is not that difficult to fake citizenship in various ways.
Yeah, there's been people over the last 50 years that have gotten caught like passing on or basically selling secrets around our various military aircraft, for example.
Yeah, there's a very controversial story of Virgil Griffith, a cryptocurrency researcher who I actually met once. He worked at Caltech, was deep in math and very excited about cryptocurrency, and he went and gave a talk on cryptocurrency in North Korea, explaining how cryptocurrency works and how cryptography works, and that was seen as a violation of export controls, and he was sent to prison. The crypto community is very upset about that because they maintain that math should not be illegal, this information should not be illegal. The government side is that
what was
helping.
His defense? Was he like thinking that he was going to liberate the North Korean people by giving them access to, effectively, or explaining how code
can be used to create a store of value that is unsanctionable, essentially, and so it was seen as a violation of sanctions by the U.S. government, and more importantly,
do they
it was
have
seen
a North Korean
unpatriotic.
stablecoin?
I don't know. They got a lot of
calling
housing.
it the most sanctioned stablecoin
potentially. This one, number 5 by Tyler Cowen, was a little bit controversial. He says the U.S. government cannot nationalize these companies and then proceed to run them effectively. And people were debating that, saying that it might be possible for the U.S. government to own the labs in some way and leave them to their own devices to actually roll these things out. What do you?
Yeah, I mean, if you're like super RSI pilled, right, you don't need the employees at all because the AI just improves itself.
So the government just says continue to improve.
Yeah,
and that's
basically.
it. So you
That's
don't
like,
actually,
the extreme scenario.
Yeah. And then on the other side, it's that, okay, these systems are actually extremely complex. You look at the uptime of some of these systems, the research taste. In fact, you need so many employees to make these products effective. You actually need the international employees as well because they come up with great ideas. And so, yeah, those are the two sort of sides of the debate. 6 is Chinese and open source models do in fact improve at some reasonable pace, even though they are right now considerably behind the best proprietary models. And that's something that I want to dig into more. It does seem like the pace of open source development in China is slowing. I'm not entirely sure what's driving it. It feels like there's a number of different things. Gavin Baker said it's about compute, and they're turning their backs on the Blackwells that they had the opportunity to buy. I think it might be research ideas that are more locked down now in tighter controlled circles in San Francisco. It also might be the data, but you'd have to imagine that they have lots of people that are writing code, lots of people that are inferencing those models, and then full data and information capturing of those rollouts. There are a number of different reasons why that pace might be slowing. And we'll see. Maybe there's a big jump in the graph. Maybe we have another DeepSeek moment in the next couple months. We'll see.
I think everyone should expect some type of update, hopefully today, from Washington or Anthropic or both. Hopefully today.
Yeah.
Anthropic had originally said, I think, 24 hours. Obviously, a lot more time has passed, but partially due to the events on the White House lawn yesterday, making things a little bit harder.
Well, before
one person potentially impacted is
Railway. Railway is the all-in-one intelligent cloud provider. Use your favorite agent to deploy web apps, servers, databases, and more, while Railway automatically takes care of scaling, monitoring, and security. Who was impacted?
One person potentially impacted is Karpathy.
Okay.
Theo went to Google and said, "Is Karpathy a U.S. citizen?" And AI overview seemingly went to Grok and said, according to Grok, Andre Karpathy is EB1 extraordinary ability green card recipient, not a U.S. citizen.
This is a loop. This is a loop. Loop from Gemini to Grok and back, and then it goes back into Grok now because the screenshot's been shared.
This is RSI.
This is RSI. For sure. Where next, Jordy?
What else do we have?
We have to talk about Le Chaton.
Le
Gros Chaton.
Le Gros Chaton?
I think that's how you pronounce it.
Okay. Yes. Take us through this. What's going on?
Well, yeah, so there's rumors. I think this has not been formally announced by Mistral.
Yeah.
Formally announced by a bunch of teapot schizos.
So in closing, Tyler Cowen called out Mistral specifically. He said, rising in status, Mistral, AI nationalism, proponents of slow takeoff is the likely scenario, reticent, quiet CEOs. But he calls out Mistral as a potential beneficiary of all this government chaos, government restrictions, closing down. And so what's going on? Mistral's released many models. They've done their actual pre-trains. They're not doing fine-tunes on Chinese models, correct? And it's been a good product. Like, it's been working. They've been raising more money, but they've never been seen as one of the leading frontier labs. Is that the general tone?
Yes, I think that's correct. I mean, very early on, I think they were like, oh, this is maybe one of the frontier labs, right? Okay. It was all, I think, ex-Meta researchers. But yeah, there's the new model. Is it real? Technically, no. But perhaps in the future, some of the founders are vague posting. Maybe they will actually release a model called. Let's
go through some of the vague posts.
All I know is a lot of Americans have ever since this new model started being talked about. A lot of Americans that maybe formerly had some type of beef with France have been real quiet.
Yep.
Real quiet.
Quiet down. Well, people are having fun with the fat cats. Arthur Mensch. This is a fake screenshot, I believe, but TensorQT shares the Death Star with the cat on it. And then Shashank Goyal says, Le Chaton Fat is now #1 on OpenRouter. Need to urgently fix our axes. And he actually
He's not really helping the confusion.
He actually works at OpenRouter. And on the chart, it has a break in the chart because it goes so high that it's off the charts. Le Chaton Fat is crushing it. I like a friendly hype cycle. This is great.
Lucas says,
I thought we had more time.
I thought we had more time.
and it's a fake it's a fake image, but it says the French government, citing national security authorities, has issued an export control directive to suspend all access to Le Chaton fat by any foreign national, whether inside or outside France, including foreign national Mistral employees. The net effect of this order is that we must abruptly disable Le Chaton fat for all of our customers to ensure compliance. It's a direct copy pasta from the Anthropic post, of course. And Gary Marcus also says, I got early access to Chaton, and it's terrifying. I was wrong about everything. Of course, Gary Marcus has been skeptical that LLMs will deliver AGI, ASI, RSI, whatever you want to call it, wherever your goalposts are. Gary Marcus says LLMs are not the direct path. And so the joke here is that Le Chaton updated his.
Vi says, anyone notice Le Chaton fat got quantized lately?
Yes. People were also saying Mythos is a distillation of Le Chaton fat.
Yeah, there's various rumors around.
Various
I think
rumors.
the
Accelerate Harder says you can really tell who has early access to Le Chaton fat and who does not.
You know, like the butt of the joke here is that like Le Chaton fat and Mistral, like it can't possibly be on the absolute frontier. But this is just good vibes. Like it's showing that they are the leader in France for sure.
Totally.
They're getting a lot of attention.
Still have mind share.
Yeah, growing the valuation, delivering something, and now people are going to check out this model and see what it can do. And it's certainly. Like people wouldn't be making this joke if Mistral had, been like completely languishing, not doing anything, not making any progress. Like this is a sign of some healthy attention. I can't tell if this is a joke anymore, but NVIDIA is reportedly in talks with Mistral AI to supply 1.5 billion euros in compute per month to help support the demand for Le Chaton fat and Le Chaton ground.
That is a joke,
ground.
John. That is a joke.
I mean, NVIDIA.
It's all fake.
Probably do.
It's all faked, except the vibe is real and it's amazing.
You can tell who has early access to Le Chaton fat and who doesn't.
In other news, the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom has banned social media access for under 16s. He says these days kids must find their feet in a world where technology intrudes into every area of their life. I just can't let that go on anymore, so we're giving children their childhoods back. Let's play the video.
Very interesting. Keir Starmer, right?
Every parent wants the best for their kids. And that's what being a parent means. And for me, for my two kids, all I've ever wanted, hand on heart, is for them to be safe and for them to be happy. And the rest is up to them. But I think back to when I was growing up, and I have to say, I think we had it easier. These days, kids have to find their feet in a world that changes so quickly, where technology intrudes into every area of their lives. And we know that harms them. The response from parents in the consultation has been absolutely clear. Thousands of parents say their children are addicted to social media. It can leave them trapped in a cycle of endless scrolling that displaces play, sleep, and time with the family. It can harm their mental health. And frankly, parents need our support on this. That is why today, the government has decided to ban social media access for children under 16. It's a big step for our country.
If you're under 16 in the UK.
It's not an easy thing to do. I'll be honest.
We exist on social media.
We haven't rushed
I don't know.
into
RSS feeds,
We've
are those social
looked carefully at the evidence.
Imagine if.
And we'll have to
imagine
adapt
if
to
they'll
approach
turn.
as
Okay, so we can.
You know what we have to do? We have to print every episode's transcript as a book, and mail it and put it in children's bookstores. So every episode of TBPN needs to be transcribed.
And it works because there's no
printed
swearing.
on paper, and delivered to children's bookstores.
Fly a plane over the UK and then drop
leaflets. A massive leaflet campaign, but every episode is a 500,000 words, so it just hits the ground like that. Every
So what's gonna happen? They're gonna require major social media companies to require ID verification for every user.
Okay.
There's potentially a bunch of, issues with that, especially given that there's a sort of raging debate around free speech in the United Kingdom and a bunch of issues related to that. And so that a lot of this, again, I will happily say that I look forward to trying to get my children to not use social media as long as possible. I don't think it's good for anyone's mind, much less the mind of a child. But there's a lot of issues here. One, the other thing with vibe coding is like literally anyone can make a social media app with like one prompt now, right? And so my expectation is this is not really going to work. And one of the...
I think there's a power law, though.
Yes, but imagine being a kid and you're 15 years old right now. You've been using social media for years.
I mean, truthfully, like if a kid goes and vibe codes a social network and sends it to like their 5 friends, like, yeah, that might violate like user account logins. It might be like a social app, but that feels like way chiller and not a big deal to me. Like it feels like the spirit of the law is upheld there. Anyway,
yeah,
we can come back to this. Aaron Ginn in the
I just think like there will be a new social network later tomorrow that gets hundreds of thousands of users because social media is inherently viral.
It's banned the next day.
They all have but again, like these things pop up. I mean, I remember there was social media.
If you have like, okay, there is $1 million penalty for delivering a social media experience to someone under 16, then if I'm a vibe coder, first the model is going to say, hey, what you're doing violates UK law. I can't help you. Or they'll say, are you sure you want to do this? Because like that's risky. And then you do it, and then you just get the fine, and you're like, I'm shutting down. Why would I keep doing this?
Yeah, but there's going to be plenty. I mean, there's
information
flows.
On this.
Information flows. And the only other thing is people have had every issue with like Meta's like trust and safety, right? Yeah. But for everything that they do that is bad, they do probably 1 million good things, right? Like taking down content that shouldn't be online, stopping abuse, things like that. And so I'm just very interested to see how this plays out. I think that kids are going to find a way to gather online no matter what the law says.
Yeah.
Maybe it's in the comment section of like the Financial Times.
Yeah.
They'll turn that.
So the definition that the UK is using, they're using the Australian model. It's not anything with accounts and comments. It's user-to-user platforms whose purpose is to enable social interaction where users can post material and where content is distributed alongside / through algorithms. So you got to have an algorithm is there. They explicitly name Snapchat, TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and X. And so the working definition is basically a social app where users post content to other users, interact socially, algorithmic feeds, shape distribution. So messaging services like WhatsApp, Signal are not affected. So anyway, we can dig into this more. I think we have Derek Thompson coming on this week,
Imagine
so we'll talk to him about it.
I'm
sure it'll be very interesting.
Just everyone's sharing, homegrown reels that they're making in their own homes.
Yeah, why not?
Imagine.
That seems more healthy than, I don't know. That seems like it solves the problem that they're going after. If they think it's a problem, they solve it. Anyway, we have Aaron Ginn from Hydra Host. He's the CEO and co-founder. You know him, you love him. Aaron, how you doing? Been too long. What's up?
Yeah, it's been a while, man. I miss David Cameron. So that's what I take away from that.
Yeah. Oh, really?
The
okay,
Tories,
yeah.
the
Where
Tories
are
a mess, but yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Oh,
I mean, have you been grappling with the phones, fertility thing, the social media thing? Like, where do you stand on all that?
I mean, most of the longitudinal studies, they actually can't normalize or control for most of the stuff versus like already predisposed behavior.
Sure.
And then like you already were existingly depressed and accelerates the depression, similar to like alcohol and other things like that.
Sure.
But the second is that this is going to go the way of the 18th Amendment because of like what Jordy said, which is like, but the world is flatter than it's ever been before, just like the model stuff with Anthropic. It's like okay, so we make a big deal about this, but then 6 months later, China already has it. So like, what's the point of this? and I think that's like I like the intent, but the intent should be like empowering parents to like educate their children and empower them to control
or choose.
Which
Apple is doing.
Even a curfew feels more like a curfew feels more enforceable, or like enforced screen time, which is like you get 30 minutes a day on social media. Like that feels like easier for the platforms to actually enforce. than, or the country to enforce than like a total ban.
Yeah, but this just goes the normal trajectory of how technology gets adopted. There's always a late stage of regulation, and for like GPUs, there's a reason why the UK government is so aggressive on sovereign AI, is because they want to do similar things to like what this is, and I think that trend is a little bit unescapable because in the UK you have the right to do that. Like they're a sovereign country, you can regulate how you want to regulate. And then the latter component is that if you think about the kind of how this whole space is fleshed out, well, like what has enabled our business, and why we just closed a very large Series A.
How much?
$100 million. $100 million. Yeah, no, right. So appreciate that. I have a gong in mind. Whenever y'all had your successful acquisition, I rang my little gong for y'all.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course, man.
Did you prime it? Because we've been getting a lot of critiques online. People said you didn't prime the gong.
Yeah.
And I just thought you come in with the hardest possible hit.
No, I'll show you. You have to do 5 priming strikes and then the real strike. So you go. Now it's primed.
Okay.
Now the real hit, like this. That's how you prime the gong before you strike it. This is the way you do it. We learned this from the commenters who said we weren't warming it up.
Hey, I am pro appropriation of my culture, so this is always a pro for the J&J.
Yeah, you brought us hats. You brought us hats that I didn't feel comfortable wearing because they just.
I thought he was talking about appropriating the GPU whisperer culture, whispering to the GPUs.
I mean, literally, my dad gave me this on my desk. So, this holds my phone.
Very cute.
Love it. So $100 million. What is the distribution of that? I mean, are you going to be buying a lot of GPUs? You're working with NVIDIA. Is this one data center, multiple data centers? Are you building restate the thesis of where you fit in the bottleneck?
Yeah, no, we're not using any of the money to buy GPUs.
Oh, okay.
We are an asset-light company.
Yeah.
I believe we hold the title as the only neocloud in NVIDIA's orbit that is a software company.
Mm-hmm.
So we manage GPUs. So we provide an operating system for the data center to where any data center in the world can become a neocloud.
Sure.
We're already in almost 24 countries, close to 60 data centers, and we have let's say several billions in contracts that have been signed for us to continue this project. So that's why Sovereign is a big customer of ours. Is got to think that is a U.S. company really going to go try to build a data center and supply in England, or are they just going to rent from somebody in England? Then you add the layers of now we're on social media, but this is clearly going to be applying to GPUs.
Yeah.
Then you can see how this all flows out, where data residency in nation states is going to be a permanent fixture going forward.
Yep.
And then that's not me approving that or wanting that. I just think that that's just where we are right now. And then you add the continuous layers to that of what is AI going to work on? Healthcare, education, defense. Already all those are nationalized industries in these other countries. So in summary, public cloud is dead. And NVIDIA all the other accelerators are applying a ton of free cash flow to that same argument. And so we're the software that enables all of that to work together.
How much of your thesis is you want to stay NVIDIA only, you want to compound the learnings around the NVIDIA ecosystem, there's value. We talked to another, a NeoCloud last week that's AMD super focused, but then you talk to other folks and they're like, we want to be completely agnostic, we want to be one big blob of fluid compute. There's multiple theses that are playing out and people are sort of testing every idea, but how do you see it? What is your strategy?
Yeah. So our software works with any OEM or ODM. It's intentionally designed that way. But of course, the capacity in our data centers reflects exactly what the market demand is.
Yeah.
And NVIDIA is just the best.
Yeah.
And yes, I do think that there is a place for not necessarily the hyperscaler chips. I think that market is pretty narrow. I think it's probably 5 customers that actually would ever buy that. But the rest of the kind of alternatives, they're all going to be designed for very specific use cases. But if you're in a market where power is going to continue to be constrained, data center space is going to be continuing, you're going to pick the most, you're basically always going to pick the Porsche Cayenne Turbo. over and over and over again. You want to put your kids in it.
GT.
You want to put some stuff in the back. Yeah.
You mean the GT?
And you want to go fast. You want to go fast, or Mercedes station wagon, right? The AMG station wagon, right?
Yeah, that's a good one.
Classic.
So that's the NVIDIA play, right? Is that I'm the best, I'm expensive, but I can do everything you wanted me to do. And ASICs and TPUs, et cetera, they're like, I'm getting a motorcycle, I'm getting a Skoda.
Yep.
And the market will eventually get there, but
Or
in
like
a world
Nissan
where
Cross Cabriolet.
Up there.
So
react to what Gavin Baker just told us in the show earlier. I asked him about, it looks like the trend lines are widening between the United States closed source model capabilities and Chinese open source model capabilities. There's a bunch of charts that show one line is growing linearly, the other is growing exponentially over time. That could be really good for America. It could mean a lot of different things. They could catch up, who knows. But he was saying that the big reason for that is that Blackwell's a great chip. They've had the ability to buy it, and they've turned their back on NVIDIA, even though Jensen and NVIDIA went to Washington and figured out the correct framework to allow for exports. Those exports have not been received on the other side because of the push to build an indigenous supply chain. How strong is that narrative for you? What would you add to that?
I think on one of my last op-eds and appearance of the show, I told you all that was going to happen, that China was going to basically reverse ban.
Okay.
Because and that's why I wasn't really that concerned about the initial kind of button.
Sure.
Yeah, because that wasn't actually the goal. It's again, like y'all both know my disposition is I love this country and I'm happy my family came here. But there's a kind of underappreciation about how actually Chinese people think and what their goals are as society. So I agree with Gavin's kind of, listen to him on All In, his other podcasts. Like he's very aligned with kind of our thesis about global compute.
Sure.
The one thing that I would add as a caveat, like the question is like, does it matter? And that's what we don't really know is that if we're in the market as customers, and I think probably all three of us has at least some German car, then other models of German cars are very interesting to us. But if China doesn't care because it buys Toyotas, it buys Volkswagens, it buys whatever, like lower end stuff, then it's just a different way of understanding the preference theory of another country. And currently, I think the safest assumption that we should have as Americans is that it doesn't matter to them, and because it could be 80%, and that's all it needs to be. And if you look at the history of CCP policies, everything from environment to manufacturing to buying stuff from Temu, it seems like the consistent strategy is that 80% is good enough. And the one thing that we do have to be very careful about, which Sachs has talked about pretty religiously, is that they are winning on the adoption side. And every kind of arc of innovation that has happened in the world, like previously AI, America has won the several stages of the like industrial revolution to other phases of the internet because we were first to adopt. And China clearly is the first to adopt on robotics, on drones, on AI integration. And that's where maybe they figured out it doesn't matter. Like they can solve it via other mechanisms like dirty power, inexpensive chips, and they can kind of go their own trajectory. So like, I'm with the administration on the changes that they've all implemented. I would say that the Friedberg's kind of last rant last week was definitely echoing like my view on things, which is like the government always thinks they can do something about something when they realize they can't, and then they spend a bunch of energy, and then at the end of the day it doesn't work, and then they still claim victory. Like the war on poverty is a great example. And so I feel like that's where we're going to end with AI, where in the end, it kind of like all this effort really didn't matter. And it caused entrepreneurs to slow down. And then eventually the government backs off and realizes that we have to quote David Sachs, let America cook.
Yeah. Is distillation a bigger problem than chip exports?
I think most of that's overblown, and it's kind of hard to prove. Yeah, I think it's actually quite hard to prove. And I also believe there is this kind of
even
subtle,
if the model will just tell you straight up that
it's flawed.
Or it's three.
Yeah, like that. Like I doubt it. Like I'm not to be clear. It totally does happen. The question is like, how much does it matter?
Yeah.
Right? And I think a lot of it is oriented towards the fact of like underappreciating the fact that Chinese engineers are actually amazing at this. And I think it's kind of all coded with that. Sure. That like, if they're copying us, somehow they can't do it themselves. Mm-hmm. And they have proven over and over and over again they can. Yeah. And then you then go into the fact of obviously coding is now universally accepted as a wide adoption, or like, the first CSA foothold for AI. Mm-hmm. Well, that's because it was also the most widely used by that customer base. Mm-hmm. And it has a firm yes or no answer. Mm-hmm. So now you see China, which is using kind of grade B models currently, but is accelerating in its adoption. And it, doesn't care about what things that we care about in terms of everything from morality to safety and things like that. So of course they're going to be able to find use cases and things that we didn't understand. And that's something we as Americans have so far deeply underappreciated. And you can see that in the poll numbers where data centers are more unpopular than nuclear energy. Yeah. And that's a quite scary place to be, which is why the kind of, I think, end arc of the data center business is actually going to mimic the oil and gas business, where the reason why fracking became this great energy revolution and why we became the number one exporter of oil and gas in the world is because oil and gas companies pay off owners of lands. Yeah. So that's just what the
forever too. I mean, you have a small piece of land that they're fracking on, like you get a check in the mail. Yeah, that's right. And that's starting to happen. There's a
sounds like Brad is working on something.
Oh, with the Trump accounts, but also, I mean,
no, not even. He was sort of teasing like we have something around like because we were just saying why would you want a data center in your backyard if you can use inference from somewhere in another state, right? Makes sense. Tyler just wanted to say hi. It's been a minute.
Oh yeah.
There we go. There's the hat.
He kept the hat.
Yeah. Oh, of course we kept. Of course we kept your gift. We would never. We would never. It's here, always in the office.
It's on our hat rack with a space helmet, hard helmet,
cowboy
crown,
hats, unicorn heads,
powdered wig, I think.
Oh, that's so great.
Anyway, thanks so much for taking the time.
Yeah, congrats on the milestone. Great to see you.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, guys.
It's been too long. Let's do this again soon. We got to chop it up on all sorts of things. It's always a great time. Have a good one.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and congrats to y'all too. God bless y'all. Y'all definitely out of the few entrepreneurs I know, man. Like, I was very happy for y'all. Y'all deserve it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Aaron.
We'll
Great
talk
to see you
soon.
Dude. Congrats again.
Let me tell you about Figma. Agents meet the canvas. Your AI agents can now create and modify your Figma files with design, system, context. And our next guest is here with us live in the TBPN Ultra Dome. Rafael, welcome to the show. Please introduce yourself for everyone at home first.
Rafael Vivas, helps start AppLovin.
Yeah.
AppLovin is the largest mobile ad platform that you may or may have not heard of.
Let's put this.
I think everyone on X knows. I feel like you guys have like 100% saturation, at least on our corner of X.
Yeah. I feel like some people learned like forcibly because they were like, hey, what's going on with this business? It came out of nowhere. Like, wasn't like super noisy, and then people were skeptical, and then you kind of proved all the haters wrong again and again.
Not a venture story, right?
No, not at all. We couldn't even raise a dime in Sand Hill. I think Adam was willing to give away 25% of the company out of $5 billion cap way back in the day.
Wow.
And now the company's worth $180 billion. We've done pretty well.
That's crazy, 25%. What was, as you tell the story, what was the key to get from $5 billion to where you are today?
The big thing for us has really just been the model, right? Mm-hmm. The great thing is, in the world of performance marketing, advertisers don't have incremental costs typically to bring in new users, right? At least on the digital side for games. And then we went into e-commerce as well, and we made the model work there. But people always want more customers, and especially if they can buy them profitably. The question is, how many more times over can you do that? And we've been able to do it at a pretty big scale.
Okay, so mobile games, super interesting economy, sneakily large. Again, I think that part of the reason why AppLovin is sometimes misunderstood is that people misunderstand how big the mobile games market is. They think like, oh, well, I'm familiar with like a blockbuster movie. Certainly, it's about the same. It's entertainment. No, it's way bigger. But walk me through. First, how big is the mobile game market? How international is it? Walk through the dynamics of like whales versus daily players versus free players. Like what's the shape of the market that you're describing to a potential new AppLovin customer?
Yeah, sure. So the mobile gamer is pretty much everyone. Think about it. You're on a first-class flight, right? You see somebody right next to you playing a word game or a solitaire game, or you're on the bus, or it's your wife at home. Yeah. So it's not just, some kid sitting in their basement. Yeah. For us, we see over 1 billion people every single day. Wow. Primarily heads of households and female. So for us, like we see it's a massive market. And I think in the App Store, there's, I think, over $120 billion of annual spend just on in-app purchases. So that really speaks to the volume of it.
The dads are PC Master Race, mouse and keyboard.
Exactly.
Can't be caught dead on a mobile game.
And
but
I mean,
it's getting there. It's getting there. You get the backbone, you click that into your phone, you can play COD Mobile. There's ways around this, little Halo.
But
game streaming.
The business grew 70% last year, and it was primarily driven by the gaming side of the business. Now, e-commerce has been the really big, massive thing for us. And listen, you say everyone's heard about us. Part of our TVPN ad partnership, helped with that.
Yeah, totally.
But no, it's been incredible. I mean, kind of looking back, we're in 26.
Yeah.
In 25, we announced having $1 billion run rate in the e-com business. And it was just a year of it being open.
Yeah.
Now have our self-serve, referral only.
Yeah.
Thousands of accounts have onboarded, and hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars of value has been generated for e-coms merchants.
Yeah.
And we're so small. I mean, just for the context of the market here, right? So I think Facebook's got over 10 million active advertisers. We only have a few thousand, right?
Whoa.
And so for us, this is like a holy crap once in an opportunity, especially for advertisers that are looking for a new channel.
That's amazing.
For us, we're at less than 0.01% of the market share.
Yeah.
But we have north of $12 billion of ad spend compounding at 70% year over year, right? So we think this is going to be a massive opportunity.
So 2 questions on AI. Let's start with the mobile game dynamic. We've seen those charts. The number of App Store submissions is skyrocketing. And yet we all can't really point to there's that breakout game that was vibe coded by the kid in the basement or something like that. And we could during the early App Store boom. I remember, was it Flappy Bird?
Yep.
Wasn't that created by a kid? It wasn't some Sand Hill Road $10 million.
There was some NBA related game.
Yeah,
I didn't play it, but I had at least
web-based.
A handful of people. But it was all
web-based.
web-based.
There's a few games that are happening, but what are you seeing in the data? Is anything starting to move where you're like, that's AI or that's vibe coding? I can see something changing about the business, or are we still sort of pre-showing up in your business?
So what we see is really cool. I'd say on the advertiser and the developer side, more and more people are coming onto the platform, right? And so on the developer side, what we see is that more developers are in need of distribution. It's now become a core part of the strategy.
Makes so much sense,
In 2012, 2013, when we started the business, most advertisers would depend on just getting an App Store feature.
Sure.
That is no longer the case.
Yeah, buddy of mine vibe coded
the
an
rankings.
Vibe coded an app.
Yeah.
I downloaded it.
Yep.
And then was later trying to leave a review because he's like, hey, this helps visibility. Couldn't find the app in the App Store, even if I searched the app,
exact name.
like the exact phrase.
Yeah, there were so many
I could
little
only find it through the link. So App Store discovery seems like
there were so many little I don't know, the Web 2.0 playbook of contact import, invite your friends, share a social leaderboard, and people would be, Game Center integration is going to be the thing that makes you pop out. And none of that they were always sort of over promising, but some of them did work. Some of them really did go viral and had interesting distribution techniques, but a lot of those have been commoditized. So actually showing up and building your business on the back of AppLovin makes a lot of sense. What about AI internally? Eric Seufert at Mobile Dev Memo is writing a lot about the GEM model over at Facebook, that they're getting a lot of lift at Meta out of new, more advanced transformer-based, matching algorithms, advertising algorithms. It's sort of like the unsexy part of Meta's AI strategy. But have you started to see glimpses of just improvement in your system during the AI era?
So on our side, our developers on a weekly basis are releasing improvements to our algorithm. And a lot of those improvements are also on the backs of using the state-of-the-art models out there. So we definitely get an advantage of it. And outside of just the ad algorithm itself, internally, our efficiency gains have been massive. I can speak for myself personally. Our marketing team is 8 other people. Every single person on the marketing team is a vibe coder, right? They're using Claude Code, they're using Codex, and they're building tools to make them more efficient in their role. we before used to have to run everything through an engineer. Now everyone is their own engineer.
Are you token maxing? Are you token minning? Or are you token min maxing?
We're token maxing. Baby.
Maxing?
We're token
wow.
maxing.
Flashback to February. What's going on? Isn't this going to be a problem? Aren't you shareholders going to be upset?
We've gotten some messages from IT.
Flashback coming in.
We've got some messages about costs getting a little bit out of hand. But the good thing is this.
It's not showing up in the quarterly earnings yet.
No, not at all. I mean, the beauty is that when you've only got a few hundred employees and you're generating as much revenue as us, you're going to have to be doing
there was somebody who allegedly, it might be a complete rumor, but $90,000 in a day.
Wow.
So I think you might be changing your tune.
No, we're nowhere near that.
It was a light week. $500,000. But yeah, judicious use. Token maxing, but not taken to the extreme.
Yes.
Judicious usage. Yeah. That makes sense.
What does it take to all the digital marketers, growth people I know will happily test any new ad platform. What has been the key to retaining customers, right? Like, a marketer, let's say they're managing a $20 million budget. A lot of it's going to Meta, Google, handful, maybe some TV. You come to them and you say, like, give us a shot with, like, $250,000 or $500,000 or something like that. Everyone will take the shot, right? But you got to, if you want to build a big business, you got to retain that.
Profitability at scale. Mm-hmm. So that scale is different for everyone. Some people are happy with you driving an extra 10% growth for their business. Some are saying, hey, you have to be the next, Facebook or Google for us. Yeah. But I would say for us, like, we see over half our clients actually retain. So we do a pretty good job. The algorithm works for a lot of people who come on. Now it's just getting the word out to the masses, right?
Yeah. Awesome. That's next week?
That is next week we open it. One other big thing is that we are going back to the AppLovin name. And this is a part of the rollout as well.
Amazing.
That's what I wanted. I wanted the whole time. I wanted that the whole time.
AppLovin's amazing. It transcends app. Like, I think of it as its own entity, AppLovin. It doesn't matter.
And for anyone that's confused as to why AppLovin is going back to the name AppLovin, you guys were thinking about having the ad platform be named something else.
Right? Axon. Yeah.
So anyway, smart play. It's what I always wanted. I have no say in the matter, but I was always thinking.
Yeah.
Listen, we're hiring more marketing people.
That's amazing. Talk about generative creative. Is that in demand from your partners? Because I can imagine a marketer saying, for this particular audience on this particular platform, I want you to just go to a frontier model and generate me 100 different copy lines that all fit neatly in the box and generate some images, and here's some screenshots to sort of work through. You could even have an AI agent actually use my game, take real screenshots, then you don't get the slop allegations. But in terms of layout, in terms of distribution, like, how much of that is brands coming to you saying, look, I'm already really comfortable with ChatGPT images or Nano Banana or Higgsfield, so I got it handled. I don't need your tool, versus I would love for you to do this for me.
Yeah, so taking a step back, the value of creative is that if you find the right creative that resonates with the right audience, it can be one of the biggest growth levers for your business, right?
Sort of a power law.
Exactly, right? Yeah. It's, let's say you spend an extra 5% on creative and you find a winner, it doesn't mean you're only going to spend another 5%. You could spend double, right?
Yeah.
And so every advertiser wants more creative that's performant and high quality.
Yep.
And so amongst all advertisers we talk about, they all want the generative tools. What we have right now is generative interactives. So that has been very helpful for us.
Yeah.
Why is that? Why interactives? And we'll talk about video in a second. How our ad unit works is we show a video, then there's interactive, and then there's the catalog. A lot of the clicks that happen on our ads are within the interactive. And so that has been massively adopted.
And that's basically playing a demo of the game, or a smaller version loaded probably in HTML or JavaScript, and then you get to demo it a little.
You hit the nail on the head.
Got it.
That's exactly.
And that's probably extremely cumbersome for a small developer with a new game. They have to go create a new version of their game that loads quickly in the AppLovin platform very seamlessly. And that's a perfect use case for
100%. And imagine you're not even a game studio, right? You're an e-commerce store. You're selling wallets,
and you want to use the interactive,
right? Exactly.
Oh, interesting,
right? Well, the interactives are massive, right? And so it's where we get a majority of the engagement. And you're showing an ad within a game, right? So how do you gamify that experience, or how do you allow it to look at more specifications of the product?
Right?
I would say 80% of our top advertisers use interactives. And so it's such a massive unit. Now, where is this going? So right now we've got the interactives. Now video has been our main focus. We have it in beta and it's been really good. And so our goal is to get that out to everybody. By the end of the year, how we envision onboarding on AppLovin is you go onto the site, you set up the pixel, then you create a campaign with one button. It automatically generates the creatives. It pulls the links. And then you're off onto the races, right? You just have to tell it your goal as well. So that's where we expect where the market is going. And it's part of our goal, which is making profitable advertising accessible to everybody.
What's your advice for somebody that wants to be the first hire at a company that becomes worth $175 billion in the public markets?
Work harder than everyone else around you and always be meeting people. I got lucky to meet Adam.
No, I don't think there was any luck. I think it was pure skill. That's why I asked.
But no, I mean, my background, funny enough, is I'm a high school dropout, right? And what I tell everyone is that
you get your GED or
no GED. If mom and dad are listening, sorry.
Have you actually gamed out? Can you get like an honorary PhD from some elite institution?
I don't know. I haven't reached out
because that's the max.
Advertising honors.
Wherever like your hometown has a university, you go give the commencement speech, you start donating, and all of a sudden they're just like PhD, and it's like probably cheaper. Like if you donate what the tuition would have been, you probably get the honorary degree.
Well, if Stanford and Harvard are listening, my email box is open for you.
I think they need you.
But my analogy I'd always tell everyone is that when you send the warriors out to go get food, the first question they ask back isn't who is the eldest tribes leader. It was who killed the animal and who brought us back the food. And so that was always my analogy of as long as I outworked everyone and delivered a ton of value, then I would be at the same conversation in the same table as everybody else.
So your advice, one word, kill.
Yes.
Kill. I mean, you kill at a lot of small companies. And if you provide value, if you provide ROI, you keep showing up. What about other platforms? I mean, we were just talking earlier in the show about Fox acquiring Roku. They have Tubi. There's a lot of ad inventory there. Have you thought about getting into that space? Like, what does that look like? What does the product line expansion beyond the phone look like in the future?
It's funny. Everyone talks about expanding. We're thinking about consolidating.
You want to focus.
Yeah, focus. Exactly, right? You try to do everything. You can't go deep on many things, right? And so what I would say is our company has grown so much since we got rid of a lot of the gaming studios, since we stopped focusing on that side of the business. For us, we feel like we have so much room to grow. I mean, remember, less than 0.1% of advertisers in the world even use AppLovin.
Sure.
So let us get to millions of advertisers, and then we can talk about the rest of the other platforms.
That makes sense. And also, you're very fortunate in you're focused on a market that is growing, both mobile gaming and advertising in mobile gaming and e-commerce
time on phones.
And time on phone. I've got 12 different tailwinds. Why go into a market that has headwinds?
100%. I don't think people are spending less time on their phone these days.
Nope. Maybe in the UK if you're under 16 soon.
John with your Apple Vision Pro. That's taking away some screen time. That's a threat. That's a real threat to you guys.
It's actually twice the screen time because it's both eyes, 2 screens.
Nixon 1, YouTube on the left.
Yeah, multitasking, full brain rot.
Awesome.
Anyway,
excited for more people to get access, and great to meet you.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me on the show, guys.
Coming on the show.
For a bit.
We'll close out there. Leave us 5 stars on Apple Podcast. We got stuff. Okay, what do we got?
One of the best ads I've ever seen.
Okay, we're going from ad
in
to
my
ad.
life.
What we got?
Ad is truly one of the best. Let's pull it up.
Wait, what is this?
This is an ad from
Cheaper Usually. This is one of those fake. This is one of those fake tech ads that the guy put up in the subway.
It's real.
That's what's going on. No,
Cheaper Usually. Yeah, I start thinking, well, in what settings is it not cheaper? It's really tough if you're trying to get people to switch.
It's certainly not cheaper if you're trying to go one block. Like a car is always going to be more expensive. But this also feels like we're trying to be cheaper. It feels like price war with Uber still, but it's we're sort of doing a price war, but not all the time. So you don't know. It's not really a guarantee of any sort of. I feel like most marketing campaigns need to guarantee something, even if it's a moderate guarantee. It's 5% cheaper every time.
Yeah, but because if it's cheaper usually, could they not just say cheaper?
even
drop the usually.
The usually is hilarious. Like I'm thinking about different campaigns.
If you take a bunch of Lyft rides, and, the same route every single day, and you take a bunch of like Uber rides, you could probably just make the argument that it's cheaper.
Yeah. Well, what's what's that airline that has the tagline "bags fly free"?
But it's also tough to put cheaper and then your logo.
Yeah, that's not good either. I think it's Southwest that has bags fly free. Like, can you imagine how bad that campaign would be if it was bags fly free? Usually, like built Ford tough. Usually, it's usually built Ford tough. Not always, but usually. What are some other big? Just do it.
Usually not the most expensive option.
Most.
That's even worse because then they're thinking, okay, sometimes it's the most expensive. Anyways, folks, I'm rooting for Lyft.
There's some other billboards.
Let's check in.
The new ChatGPT billboards are really good.
Lyft is up 10% in the last month.
The ChatGPT
the campaign
images
is working.
It's really cool. I like it because it has the same like it is aesthetically pretty, but it's also functional. It like
Bags
actually
don't fly free anymore. Apparently.
Oh yeah, they don't. But there was one airline. Think different. Usually, I'm loving it. Usually, McDonald's. A diamond is forever. Usually, De Beers. Got me. What's the other one? Finger licking good. Usually, KFC. It's very ominous.
The best a man can get. Usually.
Gillette. Usually.
Breakfast of champions. Usually.
Have it your way. Usually.
I'm loving it. Usually. Like a good neighbor. State Farm is there. Usually.
The few, the proud, the Marines. Usually.
Taste the rainbow. Usually. Red Bull gives you wings. Usually.
That's actually probably accurate. Anyway.
Fly the friendly skies. Usually.
Wait, I got to tell you about Shopify. Shopify is the commerce platform that grows with your business and lets you sell in seconds online, in-store, on mobile, on social, on marketplaces, and now with AI agents, always. Shopify always lets you do this. It's not a usual thing.
Verizon's
Let me also tell you about Codex. Codex always is a powerful workspace for always getting work done with AI agents. Whether you're writing code, analyzing data, creating content, or automating business workflows, Codex always helps you move projects forward from start to finish. Always.
Visa, everywhere you want to be, usually.
Also, we told you about Public earlier, but it's investing for those who take it seriously.
BMW, the ultimate driving machine.
Oh, yeah. We also got to talk about Fin.ai, sale to Salesforce. Fantastic outcome. True testament to founder mode. Give it up for Owen McCabe, friend of the show. Mark Benioff, friend of the show. Teaming up. Absolutely amazing outcome. Such a wild ride to build Intercom, wind up raising a ton of money, build a great business, but not have this founder energy. We talked to Owen about this, where it was like, okay, the business is working, things are growing. It's not crisis mode. It's not wartime anymore. And he sort of got forced into peacetime, and then AI shows up, and he gets to go back into wartime. And he delivered fantastic growth, fantastic new products, a fantastic outcome for everyone. Met the moment, and is now on the Salesforce team, and going to be absolutely knocking heads.
Great outcome for Intercom and Finn. Massive pickup for Salesforce.
Yeah. I mean, the rebrand, crazy move. Like, I think a lot of people were like, wait, Intercom's like this known thing. Why are you launching a new product and rebranding the whole company? But that's the type of thing that you get when a company switches into wartime mode, switches into founder mode. And so you get these like high risk, high reward things. And I don't know if the rebrand or the rename was, that critical to the outcome. There was a lot of other stuff, mainly the growth, the product, right? But it just shows you that Owen came in and said, I'm willing to change literally everything, including the name of the company that I've been running for a decade. So fantastic news. The transaction is expected to close in the fourth quarter of fiscal year 2027. That's a long time to integrate, but good luck to them to get through that. It's been 15 years in the making, so what's 6 quarters to wait around for the deal to close?
For the Fin team.
Fantastic outcome. In the seat for 27 years, Benioff's been at it. So fantastic crew. Congratulations to all involved.
Market clearing order inbound.
Leave us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Sign up for a newsletter at tbpn.com, and we will see you tomorrow at 11 a.m. Pacific. Goodbye.
Technology's Daily Show.
Technology in motion.
According to Train. in the chat. We love you. Goodbye.
Goodbye.